Let's see here. According to this, it says Hangouts on Air is working. So let me go to the live events tab. Okay, it says there's no live event. What is it talking about? Let me see here. Because the thing is that I want to be able to look at the live stream as it's happening. I want to be able to watch it so I know that it's actually working. See, 720p, good. Stream health is good. Okay, cool. View on watch page. Oh boy. I get to see myself at double speed. I'm saying the words, and then the words are being shot back at me. Incredible. This is this is what Elon Musk wanted to achieve when he realized that engines can take gas. Anyway, hello everyone. Welcome to the live stream. Um I've just been feeling like very mild these last few days. It's been one of those things where you get up, each day and you don't necessarily feel extreme about anything. You just kind of exist. And this is something that I've been feeling for the last few weeks now, really. Like it's not necessarily just you wake up and it's like, oh, everything's terrible, everything's really good. It's just a flat line. And I think there's a kind of charm to that because when your emotions are just a flat line, when you just feel like everything is, relatively speaking, okay, it's much more easy to enjoy things on the whole. Whereas when you just feel terrible, it's like you can't enjoy anything. I always prefer my emotional states to be like a flat line, like you're just right there, and you're not going too far outwards, you're not going too far inwards, you're just kind of there. Um, and I noticed this with Christmas because all throughout Christmas it was like the day was exactly the same as all of the other days are for me. And I know that this is kind of a normal thing for me nowadays, just because I spend so much time on the internet that when you go outside, for example, you see Christmas, and Christmas is just a very communal thing that everyone focuses on because they don't have anything else to focus on. Whereas when you're on the internet, it's like you have so many different things to focus on at once that it ends up being that I'm not necessarily going to focus on these more traditional things because I'm not bored enough for those things to matter to me. And it all kind of goes back to this emotional flatline state because all throughout Christmas it was like this is a normal day. This isn't necessarily something that um, I'm supposed to be worried about on any any meaningful extent. I did a live stream with DZ Dog during Christmas that I thought was pretty fun. There's a lot of funny stuff on there, but in general, like other than that, um, I haven't really done anything with my, with my time in any meaningful way. Like I listened to the fucking Soviet Christmas music and I listened to the MF Doom Christmas album. But other than that, again, like I said, flatline. That's all it is. Mm. So beyond this, I've just been, trying to figure out how to to evolve my channel past the point where it was at because um I've been making these hikikomori videos for quite a while now, and I don't really do that anymore because I said, okay, this is unhealthy. I don't need to be making these types of these types of videos anymore. And so, after I leave that community, I make this big video announcing that I'm going to leave, and um, I lose a number of subscribers. After that, I lose a number of people who were before that point loyal to my channel, who think Outlaw's a normal fag now, Outlaw's terrible now, all these other things. To this day, I still get like 7 dislikes per video, not because people actually dislike the content. It's just because they have multiple accounts and they try to dislike, all of the videos that I put out because they have that vendetta against me. And so, um, I've been trying to figure out like how exactly can I evolve these videos from here and then gain a bigger audience as a result of that. And so um I think today my main channel is at 791 subscribers. So that's just 9 subscribers away from 800, which is really big to me. Like when I hit 800 subscribers, that's only like 200 away from 1,000, and then when you hit 1,000, that's when YouTube recognizes you as a member of a certain club. They start giving you better treatment in the algorithm because now you're part of the 1K club, and then when you get to the 10K club, you're treated differently in the algorithm as well. And so, I'm interested to see what my channel would look like when it gets to those numbers. Um, and so from here, I'm just trying to figure out, how can I brand my content to become more accessible, to become well, not necessarily more accessible, but something that more people will find. The real struggle for me is just having my audience find my videos, because I know there are enough of them out there. It's just that the only way they've garnered attention is by word of mouth spreading. I had a huge surge in subscribers earlier this month because my 3 a.m. video was posted to Reddit, the analysis I did on Adult Swim, which is like a month's old video, like 6, 7 months old. But it had like a huge surge in views. And now the video is at like 4,000 views, like over 4,000 views. And that led my channel to having a big number of subscribers, just all in one day. And, I thought that was really cool, but like that's just one video that happened to be successful randomly. Like you can't predict that. You can't predict, you know, a random subreddit just really liking a video of yours. And so I'm trying to figure out like how exactly can I get these videos to the people that want to see them without trying to change my content on a fundamental level, without trying to capitulate to what the masses of YouTube, if you will, want. And that's really hard. It's really hard to try and balance those two things because you want to find more of an audience. I want more people to see my work. And I also want to see what it would be like to be at 1,000 subs because I think that's an interesting thing. Um, but like I don't want to change my videos to be different than what they already are, in other than in ways that I would like to see. I don't want the videos to become, this shadow of their former self just because I'm trying to get more viewers on them. What's the point of trying to garner more viewers if they end up being something that you don't want anyone to see, which in my case, I wouldn't want anyone to see content that I wasn't proud of, and I wouldn't be proud of videos that were just made for the sake of being clickbait. So I'm never going to do that. YouTube is always meant to be something fun for me. This is always meant to be something that I care about solely. I used to try and clickbait and stuff with videos like my Lego Unikitty video, for example. I knew that video was going to get 50K views, and it did. And like, I can make very cynical videos like that, but I don't want to. I don't want to make videos that are just made with the express purpose of getting a whole bunch of views and subscribers. So it is very hard to balance those two things. And I'm just trying to figure out like what form of outreach can I do to get more people on board with my content to then share my content out to other people if they have a connection to it. Because I know there are some people who have had a very big connection to my videos. And this is insane. I've had somebody say that like I'm their favorite YouTuber, which is totally absurd. And they should not be saying these things, but like there are people out there who would really enjoy it. I know they exist because I've talked to them. So like I just need to be able to have it be spread enough until eventually those people find it, and then they can spread it out to other people, and then the subscriber growth happens. But also, I haven't been doing the daily uploads thing that I used to do. And I think that's a bit of a detriment to growth, is because I haven't had the motivation to make a video every single day, let alone the ideas to make a video every single day. I think about, will this specific idea work? Um, the way that I want to do it with the resources that I have. And then oftentimes I find out that it doesn't. And so trying to figure out a way to get out a video every day on the main channel while also retaining again that sense of artistic purity is very hard. But that's what you have to do to grow on YouTube. And so it's really hard for me to strike that balance, like I said. But on the positive side, subscribers are growing up, and there's a lot of growth on the channel in general, and I'm really happy with how that's going. And it's kind of a Christmas gift to me to be able to see all this growth happening. And yeah, I like the idea that more people can see my work. That's the thing, is that I want my work to be seen by as many people as I can, as I can feasibly get, because it's interesting to me to see their reaction. It's interesting to me to read comments from people. And yeah, I like, I to put it simply, I like the attention from people. I like being able to know that the work that I put into a video is seen and appreciated by people. So I'm gonna turn over to the chat here. Is there? I guess I could do screen sharing, can I? Because I want the chat to be able to be seen on the actual stream. But yeah, if any of you in the chat have anything to ask me or anything like that, yeah, go ahead. Uh, Because I kind of just started this stream like completely impromptu. Do you got Streamlabs? I don't even know what Streamlabs is. I actually have no idea what that is. Is it an extra an extra add-on for Google Hangouts? Is it with OBS? I don't even know. Oh boy. I watched Philosophy Tube's video on the Queen, where he talked about how he wanted to fuck the Queen, and it was really good. 10 out of 10 YouTube content, unironically. It's a program that works with OBS. It adds overlays onto your stream like chat boxes. Oh shit, I'm gonna look that up right now. Oh. I was watching this One E Plays Newgrounds games with JonTron in the background. Because yes, I am a hateful, racist misogynist who hates the Jews and pagans and Christians and women and the brown Egyptian people because I consume JonTron content. That's just the truth. Everybody knows this. That's just a fact. Um, I I sit at the altar of Adolf Hitler every day, and I drink from the holy sacrament that was led by my boy Benito Mussolini. That's just a fact. Everyone knows this. It's just a fact because I consume JonTron videos. Oh. Streamlabs. I'm guessing this is an open source thing. Number one broadcaster for gamers. Oh boy. Download beta. Oh geez, this thing is like huge. This takes up a lot of space. 200 megabytes. Cuz I only have 250 gigs on my computer. Hmm. Uh, JonTron did nothing wrong. Yes, it's true. He literally did nothing wrong. Okay, JonTron literally just had an opinion that was different from other people. Yeah, it was like weird and like he was against immigrants and stuff, but like his family were immigrants. Like he's, Persian. Like he's not a racist. He loves other people, he's done a lot of really good things for other people. And like you can tell just by, the people who are friends with him, who he's done good by, that he is a good person, you know. It just because somebody has beliefs ideologically that don't necessarily align with yours, doesn't necessarily mean that they're bad. Some people just don't know what they're talking about. I don't think John Tron really knew what he was doing in that debate. I don't think he necessarily was ready for that debate. He was just kind of saying things in the moment. And you can have, anti-immigrant type beliefs. It's just how you express them. It's how you're able to convey them to the audience. And he just slipped up at the time. That was it. Like he in the heat of the moment had said some things that he didn't mean to say. He could have articulated himself better. He could have withheld some, bit more juicy information. But people make mistakes. And that's yeah, he made a mistake, but that's not something you should hold against JonTron. He's still a fine person. People's politics shouldn't define who they are as people. Now, if you're like a political pundit or something and you constantly go on about politics on your show all the time, yeah, that's going to be annoying. I might not necessarily want to hear that. But like if you're just a normal guy and you just make comedy videos and you're cool and you're nice, who cares? It is what it is at the end of the day. It's just people having fun on the internet. They're just human beings. Human beings make mistakes. Human beings can have logical errors sometimes, and sometimes human beings aren't that smart. It's sometimes that's just how it is. And that's not me ripping on JonTron, but like some of his ideas weren't very smart. They weren't very good. But am I going to call him a bad person because he just didn't know what he was talking about or because I disagree with what he was talking about? No. No, of course I'm not. Because at the end of the day, your actions define who you are, not necessarily what you believe. And I don't think random people on the internet can necessarily always speak for what JonTron has done or who he is. So yeah, that's my stance. I don't I don't think it matters. Um, I think people. I don't think anyone cares anymore. But it's one of those things where it people are just people. They're that's what they should be treated as. They shouldn't be treated as you know a as okay. I'm really distracted by trying to get this fucking OBS thing to work. Um, as this like brainless automaton that's just meant to spout their ideology, because no one is that. The reason why they have their ideology is to lift up themselves in the first place, or because of the circumstances that are within their life. People, for example, people who are more anti-Semitic. A lot of the reason why they believe that is because they experience harsh alienation within the life that they lead, and they feel that it's better to look at the Jews as being the problem for what's going on in their life than it is for them to realize that it's the circumstances or themselves. But fundamentally speaking, they're still experiencing hardship, and so they use this in order to get over that hardship, or to make the hardship less hard. um and it may be wrong what they're saying. Morally, it is very wrong to organize under those pretenses, but I can understand it. I can understand um why someone would have the beliefs that they do, because people are much more complicated than just the beliefs that they have. And you know, I always talk about how we need to do revolution, we need to do all these other things that are going to progress society as a whole, but that's probably never going to happen in our lifetime. So if we're not going to be starting revolution tomorrow and kicking down the pig's doors, then what's the point of being aggressive to people who disagree with you? Because fundamentally speaking, it does nothing, changes nothing, doesn't change the system, doesn't change society. It just makes you look bad and angry for getting mad at somebody who's different than you. This isn't to say people don't have the right to be offended when someone says something that's racist or triggering, but I think it's also on the part of the person who gets offended to learn how to overcome that, you know, to learn that these opinions are going to exist regardless, and that it's better to be stronger than them. Uh, very rarely an apolitical sentiment coming from me. But I don't really think these sentiments are apolitical. I think they're just empathetic. I also watched that Chapo Trap House vid. Pretty much hits the nail on the head. Yeah, it's like a lot of the more liberal news outlets. They're just pandering to their group, and so they end up not being funny. But yeah, what happened to your Discord? I deleted my Discord. I just got rid of it. I'm thinking of making a new one. Um, but for the time being, I deleted it. Hmm. Hmm. Ugh. I don't know. Do you guys have any like videos that you want me to do, or things that you think would be good for my channel for me to talk about? I asked this to people a surprising amount. I'll just say like, you know, uh, what do you guys want from my channel? What do you guys see in my channel? What do you guys get from it? Because I have my own very specific beliefs whenever I make a video. I know exactly what it's trying to convey, and I know what it means to me, but it's always really interesting to me to hear what other people's perspectives are on my work because everyone views media through their own kind of glasses. It's like when you go to the to the glasses shop, and then you're like, all right, you get in the machine and they have to keep cycling through all the different lenses until they eventually find something that makes it to where you specifically can see correctly. um and so, like, when I go to YouTube, I think it's really interesting to see what other people's perspectives are because everyone views it, in their own way. Everyone sees things differently. It's exactly like when you go to the eye doctor, like they just keep cycling through all of these different all these different lenses, and noticing the differences in how people see can be pretty cool, especially when it's something that I made. And so, yeah, maybe make a video on the importance of faith. Yeah, that could be an interesting video. Um, I'm not a religious person personally, but I do think that faith is a concept that works beyond religion. Like, I think just having faith in something, whether it be faith that things are going to be all right, faith in yourself, faith in a higher power, um, I think those things are very important, depending on who you ask. So I think that could be an interesting video to talk about. Although I also think you're probably more suited to make that video because, like, I'm not a religious person, but because you are, like, directly religious, um, I think it would be you'd probably be more suited to make it. Not to say that I don't have faith in my own life, um, when it comes to different things, but I feel like that's much more of a task for a religious person to do. I mean, I do call, like, Buddhism my religion to some extent, but I also don't have a temple near me to go to. So, um, if I had a temple, I would just make videos about Buddhism from time and time. But I in Kentucky have nowhere to go. Mm. But as we all know, London is my city. Can't ever forget that. Can't ever forget that London is my city. I was waiting for this anime YouTuber to come on stream. I think I've been waiting for like a solid like 40 minutes. He said give me a few minutes, but he's hey, Razor's here.
Hey, I don't know if it's working. Is it working? I don't
Yeah,
even
yeah.
know. Okay,
I can hear you.
okay, great. What's up?
Yeah, you're live on air. You're on a live stream.
Oh shit. Okay, wait. So I legit almost came in with my personal account and I was like, damn, that's fucking dumb. So then I just didn't. So that's why it took me so long to get in here. So hello.
Yeah, who are you? And introduce yourself to the millions of viewers watching the Infinite Outlaw live stream.
Oh my god, there's millions of people with the famous outlaw. So I am on the internet, Corax Catalyst. That's my channel name. Look it up, youtube.com/Corax Catalyst, I think, or I don't have an URL. I don't remember. Anyways, yeah, I'm a YouTuber. I've been on the platform for almost over 3.5 years at this point.
Damn.
It's a long run. I've known Outlaw for like almost a year, over a year, probably something like that.
I think it's been like 2 years by this point, like almost 2 years, because you found my Steven Universe videos when the channel first started.
Oh my
So,
god, you're
like,
right. Oh
yeah.
my god, where's my life gone? Regardless, um, Yeah, so I used to be called Razor Reviews, and now I'm not, and now I make anime videos, and it's cool, and I'll make some other shit too, but that hasn't happened yet. But yeah,
Hmm. Yeah, you used to make specifically videos on the
on the
award-winning cartoon.
award-winning cartoon classic, best 10 out of 10, best fucking Cartoon Network, Cartoon Network, if only, My Little Pony: Friendship is Magic, the best show
Yes,
ever.
yes.
Yes, I did that. It was bad, but
You were
okay.
specifically part of the Brony analysis community.
Oh my god. There's a podcast that we did called, I think, My Little Pony Made Us Literally Communists, that you can
Yes.
watch, that I talk about my entire pony story up to that point,
That came
which,
out a year ago.
oh, not much has happened, to be honest. I made like 2 videos set from that time as that were like pony videos. Yeah, I went to some cons, and then I made a couple more videos, and I was like, damn, this is stupid. So then I waffed around for like another year trying to find what I wanted to do, and now I'm making things again. So that's the only difference between that live stream and now.
Yeah. I mean, you've made some Ava videos, which I mean, Evangelion is trash. But
Oh,
like
okay. Fucking Flevian over here. Go ahead though.
but like they were good videos. I enjoyed them. They were well voiced, good writing, but you need to make more YouTube because like you've literally made like 3 videos this whole time. Do more.
Yeah. So I also made a Fooly Cooly progressive video that got fucked in the ass by Content ID. So that got killed, and I like. The thing is, the order for me to actually get that video back up, the chance that I would have gotten would have forced me to get a copyright strike, and there's no guarantee even that they would take that, because according to them, it was quote unquote manually detected, and I actually suspect it was, because actually people who worked at Production IG North America actually saw the video and they liked it. But unfortunately, other people, because they tweeted the video, that got caught by people in the industry and they took it down. So yeah, so my videos have been seen by actual important people who actually make anime, but
Damn.
unfortunately, that shit is dead. But I still like the Ava videos; they're good.
That's how it is on this bitch of an earth.
I will make more videos. I was making one before I got here. That's what I was working on. Was the Ava video that I've been working on for like months, and it's not going to be worth those months, but I like it regardless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. I refuse to watch Mr. Cynical's new Ava video.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it's literally just like free will and Ava saved my life. Fucking degenerate Max Stirner bullshit. And like I remember this guy Wiener in another chat that I'm in, he said this. I watched Mr. Cynical's new vid, pretty hype, and literally my response was praising Ava, free will. Yeah, that's a skip for me.
Oh my god. 10 out of 10, my friend. I mean, I don't like I actually I read I was one of the select few that actually read the script of that video as like an article before the video came out. And as a video, it's like, yeah. Uh but at the same time, I liked it. The only thing I'll say is I wish there was like I wish he would break up his points into like, part 1 fucking explaining the themes in Neon Genesis, part 2 explaining each movie or something like that. If he did that, then I feel like the whole thing would have been more coherent, but because it wasn't, it kind of mashed together, and I was like, damn. I don't know. It was hard to follow in certain points.
Yeah.
Unless you read it like me, then you knew what was happening. Yeah.
Yeah. That's why I encourage all YouTubers who don't break up their videos into parts to have a text version in the description. That's what I do, because I know that when I read my scripts, it's not always going to be legible to the viewer ear-wise.
Yeah.
So like, I want to have the script in the description just so they can clarify a few things, especially because a lot of the time, because I'm pretentious and stupid, I'll have these weirdly written lines that like you have to read over like 2 times to actually understand. And
Yeah.
so like when I'm reading that as a script, it's like, whoa, what did he just say? I don't get this.
Hmm.
And so like it's good to have the text version in the description because of that. But like with Mr. Cynical, like he posts these videos and they're not broken up. It's just unbroken. This is my thoughts on Evangelion. Let's go for 40
Yeah.
minutes. And
Yeah.
like with the way that his voice sounds, that can be kind of grating
Yeah.
because his voice is like very monotone and specific.
Yes.
Because he's a fucking French Canadian. Like, like it's one of those things where when you hear his voice, it doesn't go up and down very much.
Oh,
It's just one thing.
he's French Canadian?
Yeah, you didn't know that?
No, I just a lot of things I don't know about this man, but I now know that, and it makes so much sense because the way he talks, it reminds me of like some people I've met in real life who are normally speaking, I would say that shouldn't like pick up a microphone just because their accent can be sometimes hard to understand. Obviously, this dude's been working on this for a long time, so just by the nature of practice and like working on your voice, his inflection is better than those people. But at the same time, there's still like a heavy dialect, which you can hear in my videos sometimes. I try to like get the fuck out because I don't like it. I want it to be more not grating. And you can make it pretty grating. And also he compresses his audio a lot, which makes it so that like after like 20 minutes you're like fuck. You want to like take a break from it because it hurts your ears. But that makes a lot of sense now.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
I am blessed to no longer have the southern accent that I used to have because in my videos it would sound so bad. I've literally trained myself out of having a southern accent. Um,
Really?
yes, because the thing was is that when I grew up, I didn't really have much of one because most of my source of words was from watching the TV. I would talk to my mom too, and she would have kind of a southern accent. She would say certain things southern, but not everything. But when I went to school, I just completely changed the way I talked to fit in more with the people around me. And so I would talk Southern, and that just became how I talked for a while. My brother did the exact same thing. He never
Mm,
talked Southern before, but then he completely changed the way that he spoke just to fit in with everybody around him.
mm.
And I would like start like speaking grammatically off and everything.
Hmm.
But when I started doing YouTube, I was like, well, I can't do that anymore. And
Yeah.
so I had to literally train myself out of talking Southern when I was doing YouTube videos.
Hmm. Interesting. I mean, I've heard of that happening before. There was a cosplayer slash VA in the pony community that had a similar thing where she used to have like she grew up in South Carolina and
Oh,
like
wow.
all of her life basically, so she had a heavy fucking accent. And then after sort of working on it as a voice actor, she went to vocal training, I think, specifically to remove her accent because she I think moved to Colorado. And yeah, that definitely like I could understand, you know, I can relate that experience, I guess you could say, to sort of losing the accent. I never really, I don't know, the way that in which like the Midwestern sort of quasi Chicago accent functions is all T's turn into D's. So like water is just water, like
Water.
water. So I have to sometimes just be like water whenever I'm reading a script or something. So you can tell the lines where I'm explicitly experimenting with my dialect to try to suppress it because I'll overpronounce all the T's. Fun fact for any of those who watch my videos. If I ever overpronounce the T's, then I'm doing that on purpose because I pronounce them like D's and it all slurs together. But I think what makes it extra confusing is that I grew up with people who were from the East Coast. So there's a lot of I just pronounce words really stupidly sometimes, and that's their fault. So
It goes over theirs.
God, it's not that bad because they're from at least some of them are from rural New York.
That's a bit
So
better.
it's a bit better than like the heavy like city, but it's still not good. And the other one is from Idaho, so I'm like, oof. I don't know. It just it's difficult, I guess, to deal with and with microphones at the same time. But after if I made videos more frequently, I wouldn't run into issues with that. But you know how that be.
Yeah. I mean, you have to do what I do. Ever since 2016, basically, like the middle portion of 2016, I literally made a video almost every day, and I've been doing that for, let's see, it's 2018 now, or almost 2019, really. So, like,
Yeah.
2 years I've been doing a video almost every day with, like, some gaps in there. Sometimes I take a month off or whatever, but generally speaking, it's like, videos pretty consistent, at least a few a week. So, like, I've the way I've trained myself is just by doing it so much.
Mm.
And that's kind of the way that I've learned how to do literally everything on YouTube, is not because I refine my skills or like I sit over there and I really stew over it and I'm like, all right, how do I word this thing? How do I figure out how to be Digibro? Two
Yeah.
years later of sitting down and thinking, all right, I've come up with the ultimate formula. No, I just get on the fucking mic and I say a bunch of dumb shit, and then it turns out bad, and then I keep making videos that turn out bad, and then
Yeah.
400 videos later I come up with something good. It's not like I'm Mr. Cynical over here plotting my way into the head of Nietzsche. Like
Oh my God.
yeah.
Stewing over the Twilight every so often. The Twilight Idols verse fucking 35.
It's not like when I go to bed I have to read the exact same passages from the Antichrist again and again until they are instilled within my consciousness.
It's not like every Sunday I'm reciting Maxims and Arrows by Nietzsche like for about an hour every day.
Yeah.
I love Mr. Cynical so much.
I do too. He's a good boy.
He's a
Is
good boy.
legitimately an inspiration to me. That's why I make fun of him.
Yeah. No, like I remember, so I've talked to the man once and he definitely has left an impression on me, just as an individual, because I've been reading up more philosophy than I normally do. I guess you could say, which is decent amount, but like just recently I went on like sort of a timeline, I guess you could say, where I started more ancient and then I worked my way up towards more modern stuff. And definitely like I can see like when I look at like what I think is really weird is that he's a super pro free will guy, but Nietzsche is kind of anti free will. So it's really cool.
Yeah. I mean, his whole thing is like, oh, you can't be dogmatic toward Nietzsche because that's not the point of his philosophy, which I mean, I agree with.
Yeah,
but
agree
like,
too.
he says that like you have to like take Nietzsche's ideals and then like learn how to apply them to the current world or like your own life or whatever. It's really like long-winded compared to what I just said, but basically that. So it's not like he just believes Nietzsche full sail, but like it is funny to listen to him sometimes where he's like, I remember back when I was in the Chromasticators, he like said, we were in this argument and then he was like, I would give Nietzsche's argument, for example, which is obviously 100% correct. And like, well, he didn't say obviously, but he did use the words, which is 100% true. And I was like, I just couldn't stop laughing when he said that, because it was like, this is literally like your meme that you always reference this guy,
Yeah.
And then the fact that you add 100% correct to that just makes it more funny.
Yeah, I feel like that's something, for one, that's funny on a multitude of levels, because that's something that Nietzsche would say about himself and his own writings. If anybody has read Nietzsche, you know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
But I think is like, I don't think, God, I don't think any single school of thought in philosophy is good to like, in full, like, completely put yourself into. Like you're going like most people, and even Cynical does this, where he kind of dips their hand into multiple schools of thought. Any sort of good intellectual will give them a wide variety, a buffet, if you will. Sometimes seeing things that seemingly are contradictory, but can sort of work together in a fun dialectic, if you will, if for those who know what the term is. So, for example, I really like the works of Sartre, and I like the works of Camus, but at the same time, I'm not pro free will, at least entirely. So you would think all of those three together would be a weird sort of mash of nothing, but that makes my philosophy, at least my personal philosophy on life. So it can work, and a diversity of thought, if you will, is I think the most productive way to do it. And I wouldn't be like, well, I mean, Sartre would say this specific thing, and he's always 100% right about everything. Like that, I wouldn't be like that.
Yeah, and I mean it's the same thing with me with like Marx, for example. Like I'm not going around saying that Marx was 100% right about everything because that's just not true.
No, clearly
Like
because it was Engels. Duh, idiot.
yes, Engels understood everything. This is just a fact. Engels and Max Stern are the two who should have teamed up.
They should have teamed up to take down a Marx and the bourgeoisie and usurp their own ultimate quasi-Marxist egoist ideology. Thank you, my friend. Anyways.
Oh god, I hate egoism so much. But but yeah, like fucking, you know, I don't sit there and I like and I just read Capital religiously like it's, you know, like it's a doctrine by which my life should be commanded from.
Yeah.
Like I'm not gonna do that because at the end of the day these are just thinkers. Their ideas are meant to be thought about. You
Yeah.
know, they had to think about the system that they're analyzing in order to create the work that they did, and so you should also have to think about the work that they created because that's how progress happens. Progress
Yeah.
happens by criticizing things.
Yeah.
You know, people think about the great revolutionary Vladimir Lenin. The reason why he was able to achieve what he did, whether you like him or not, is because he applied what Marx said to new material conditions. He took
Yeah.
the basic ideas of what Marx was saying, and then he figured out, okay, how do we apply this to the real world? And you know, he had to develop the ideas. But if he were to be completely dogmatic and just say exactly what was in the text, then he wouldn't have gotten anything done. You know, and then there are some of our boys who want to say that the peasantry is reactionary just because Marx didn't say anything about that. So like, you know, it just depends on where you lie on the spectrum of how much progress do I want to make, and you know, how much do I want to believe in these people as people, because it's people worship. That's what it is. And you see this on every side, politically or philosophically. These people want philosophers and figureheads to command their life. I met this one guy who was in my Discord server. I think his name was called This Is Linus. He has a YouTube channel on YouTube called Linus's Keck Tips, and he literally told me that Nietzsche had saved his life. Like that's the level that we're talking about with certain people. And so of course it makes sense when you need a philosopher to lift you up out of where you are, then you're going to be very dogmatic with him and you're going to say, you know, this is the best guy. This guy has all of the correct things because you're using it as a crutch for your own life.
Yeah.
And like I think that's very dangerous to an extent. Because, you know, if you're not looking at you know, what this system is or what this system of thought is in a critical light, then you can't progress. You can't, you know, try and for example, if there's a moral quandary that happens, you know, like something where you need to know, am I doing the right thing or not? If you're just doing exactly what these philosophers say, you might do something potentially wrong because you're not questioning what you're doing, you know?
Exactly.
And so there's always a reason, you know, there's always a reason to try and do things better, or to see, you know, how we could improve this system of thought that we have, because that's what the people who made the system of thought would have done themselves. Marx looked at capitalism critically and made his work because he was a critical thinker. People
Yeah,
who look at Marx's work and want to follow it should do the same thing
yeah,
while also keeping the basic principles intact.
yeah.
So yeah, it's an important thing I think a lot of people forget. You know, when you want to be someone who thinks critically, if you're just following one school of thought completely dogmatically, then you're not progressing anything. You're not being a critical thinker. You're not being the high IQ Rick and Morty fan that you say you are, because at the end of the day, you're just looking at the same shit and quoting it, you know?
Exactly. There's, I think Marx is a great example of like a sort of the culmination of philosophical thought. I guess Marx slash Engels, because he basically just transcribed all of his work. Because the thing about Marx is that he read, like, you could say Marx is a weird sort of hodgepodge, a conglomerate of Smithian economics, Hegelian like German ideology, and Feuerbachian materialism, and he just kind of mashed them together, and that's what you got out of it. Plus sort of obviously stuff based off of his own interpretations on like his experiences on life, and French socialism. That in a sense is that in a sense is Marxian philosophy. And I think it's funny because I remember, I forget, I think we talked about, I think we were in a conversation about this before, about how like like leftist YouTubers tend to be too sort of deconstructive. They don't have like an answer for things, when in many ways Marx was mostly deconstructive. Just how he was, because he'd look at other things people write and say that sucks, it needs to be better, and then he'd write it better. He is like the Digibro of philosophers, where he just
Oh
looks
my
up,
god.
hates it, and then makes his own version.
Karl Marx is the Digibro of philosophers. Oh no.
Oh no! Except I think his analysis is a little bit more in depth than Digi's on like life and shit. Hold up, let me let me clarify before I get quoted 20 years down the line. Somebody goes back through my things, much like the Kanye Twitter scale. Not Kanye, fucking Kevin Hart. You know what I'm talking about? They're both short black people, so like it's basically the same person. But
Whoa, Digibro is a short black person? Whoa.
I'm talking about Kanye and fucking and Kevin Hart. But
Okay.
regardless, see, you're like logical. Thank you. But like my point still stands. I think that Marx is like a deconstructive philosopher, largely speaking. That's why people are always like, well, I mean, he didn't have that many answers for what socialism should be, because he thought that was that kind of went against the point. So
yeah, I mean, he was a critic. Like,
yeah.
I remember I was watching this interview Bill Maher did with Richard Wolff.
Yes.
And like Richard Wolff was saying, like, I call myself a Marxist not because the Chinese or the Soviets did these things. I don't agree with those things. I call myself a Marxist because I have criticisms of capitalism, and we can't sit here and say that, capitalism is all good or all bad. We have to be able to look at the good and the bad. And he said, this is what Marx did. He was a critic. And, in the United States, we feel way too sensitive about criticizing our system. And so, like, it's interesting to me to look at someone like him who just looks at what Marx did from an extremely like bare bones perspective of, yes, this is a critic, and I call myself a Marxist because I am also a critic.
Yeah.
And like what people like Lenin were trying to seek to do was apply that criticism to material reality. And that's why this age-old debate always happens of saying like Leninism isn't real Marxism because he didn't do it this way, or it ended up being totalitarian. But we couldn't have really known, because Marx didn't leave like a solid enough foundation on how to actually build the society,
Yeah. We only have the relative definition of the proletariat by his definition, which is the people who don't own the means of production owning that in some fashion. And that's all you got, boys. Plus all the criticisms and stuff, like no money and, some other such things. But relatively, that's the bare bones definition. So from that, you're going to get a wide variety of interpretation. Richard Wolff, I think, is a really interesting example because he comes from the School of Economics. And the thing about economics is that it's basically taught like it's fact objectively, and every facet within it is fact. I remember, and even I remember my teacher when I took consumer ed. I think that's what it was. It was basically just life class. It taught you how to live life, like pay your fucking taxes, like buy a house, all that stuff. Actually, kind of a useful course. I'm not gonna lie.
Or move to Alaska and get $1,000
annually, or move to Cuba and say fuck that, or move to Poland and get killed because I'm brown. So you have multiple options, right? You have multiple options, yes. But she asked me, I remember, why didn't I take AP Econ? Because I got like an A+ in that class. I knew everything because along with like the life stuff, there was bare bones economic lessons. They had to because it's a life class. So they had to explain capitalism in a very sort of like diluted, lowest common denominator. We have to make sure that like mentally disabled people can understand this, but in a patronizing way than most like special eds courses. So that's why. And I said to her, I said to her like, oh, I've thought about it in the past. I couldn't express my true reason, which is I think that the way economics is taught is like genuinely terrible and the worst thing ever. And it creates a lot of sycophants or just uncritical monkeys or drones that just sort of follow this doctrine and not really think critically. And Richard Wolff, his whole thing, as you mentioned, is like he was in economics classes in college and like nobody wanted to talk about Marx. So he looked at Marx and he's like, this criticism is substantiative. I'm going to agree with this. I'm a critic of capitalism, therefore I'm a Marxist. So it's a very interesting way to sort of like the way that the ideology functions. I think it's just very fascinating.
Yeah, of course. And I mean, obviously, I make no secret that I'm a Marxist-Leninist because I believe, that's a way to apply these concepts to reality, because I'm really into like the idea of not just criticizing and not just believing in things philosophically, but applying them to the real world in the most effective way possible. And I believe that's a way to do it. But I also believe that that thought needs to be updated because we're not in the 20th century anymore. These things are not going to work when we're in a technological age. There hasn't been a criticism that's been built for the technological age of capitalism. We only have like, how do we transition to feudalism and, or from feudalism, I should say, how do we transition from, being an industrial country, all these different things, on the national question and all that. But like, we don't have a thinker that's really talking about, how do we achieve revolution in the technological age, and what does that even mean in the technological age,
Yes.
And I think someone really needs to cover this because like all of the information we have on how to build society in a Marxist framework is from the 20th century, and it's way fucking outdated.
Yes. No, you're 100% right. We don't live in an era where most working people are industrial workers that sort of sit next to each other, screwing in the same screws and hammering in the same jacks all day, every day. That's not, we don't live in that time.
We don't live in a country where like there's an industrial part and then there's a feudal part with fucking lords and serfs,
Yes, we don't live in a country that's oh god, we don't live in a country that's a weird conglomerate of like 8 different countries that you sort of have to force together to like work together to achieve something cool. We don't live in that. We live, I say more accurately, like 4 countries, at least the United States, but culturally speaking. But it's definitely something that must evolve and change with the times. People are trying to in different ways, and I think my issue with a lot of them is that they're either too vague or wrong. So-
Yeah, I agree. Like one of the only like good like leftist books that I think has actually like changed the conversation
yeah.
is Peter Coffin's Custom Reality and You. Like that book
Yes.
came out and it actually progressed the conversation further. There were new concepts that were being made in that book that were applied to reality as it is now, to the discourse as it is now,
Yeah.
and it was actively changing organization in the leftist community. That's a
Yeah.
good thing. That's actual progress that's being made. And
Yeah.
like if we could have a bunch of people, like an army of people working on books similar to that, then we could actually get onto something, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, fuck, I just remembered I have to get an updated copy of the book because he did a second edition or whatever, and
Hmm.
he's like, "Hey, if you bought the first one, which I did, then you should, you're allowed to a free version of the new one." And I was like, "Yee!" So I have to go get that. But yeah, you're welcome, by the way, for telling me about that book.
Oh, I
Uh,
actually knew about that book because
oh, really?
I watched Peter Coffin's YouTube channel way before you told me about that book.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. Sorry, it was somebody else who said that. Never mind. Scratch that. But yeah, I think like in terms of I think the most important books that have come out in the last decade that are relevant to the conversation of modern capitalism and like how it functions and sort of like what cultural things come out of that and how do we examine it is Mark Fisher's Capitalist Realism, which everybody sucks off nowadays, which is great because Mark Fisher is a great writer, died too young. Um, Obviously, Custom Reality and You. I think those are like the two important ones for nowadays. I think there was a book I read uh, called Kill All Normies that I think is a good cultural analysis from a leftist perspective about online culture wars that I think is good. Pretty good, not always good, uh, but still pretty great. But yeah,
I have that downloaded on my computer. I need to read it.
it's pretty good. I think it gets Gamergate really wrong and Elevator Gate kind of wrong.
Hmm.
But besides those two analyses, which are at the very beginning of the book, everything else I think is great and accurate. So
Well, I mean, as we all know, Gamergate was about ethics in video game journalism.
oh yeah, as we all know, Gamergate is this one single thing that I can objectively ascribe it to because I'm a god, and I knew the motivations of everybody involved with Gamergate. Oh, I um, I always think about Gamergate and just how frustrating it is because not either pro Gamergate or anti Gamergate really get it. I think pro Gamergate's pretty better at getting like the whole discussion and like what is it for and why people don't agree. I think pro Gamergate's better at it than anti Gamergate. Anti Gamergate's just fucking terrible. They're dumb. I don't get them at all. But like obviously there is like if normal people can endorse Gamergate, like the dude Review Tech USA, who's pretty like an apolitical normie type. If he can say I'm pro Gamergate, then there obviously is a legitimate reason why people were pro Gamergate. But at the same time, they have. I think they're too easy to sort of downplay the whole like harassment aspect of Gamergate, which is why the other anti-Gamergate refuses to even acknowledge the fact that the other side had good points. But yeah. Or
I
like,
know
yeah.
literally nothing about Gamergate. I just know that a bunch of skeptics who I used to watch used to be mad about it. I I would watch their videos and I would interpret nothing from them. It was like dead air to me. Like I would listen to it and it would go in one ear, come out the other. I would say, "Okay, these guys are right," and I literally did not know what they were saying.
Oh my
Like
god.
yeah, like I would watch these videos and like I would literally not know what these guys were saying, but I would agree with them anyway.
I there's a good summary video of the beginnings of Gamergate, like how the whole thing started, done by a skeptic. But I think it's pretty like it gives a good summary of like how the thing started, which was like some game dev. It was revealed that she did some stuff by like her ex or whatever that was not good, and it turns out that because she was a game dev and she like had sex with some journalists, and like that was a whole scandal, and that was Gamergate. That's what the ethics in games journalism thing was from that. And the problem was that like she got harassed by people, and then games journalism called gamers themselves sexist, even though it was a very tiny portion of the community, only people who knew who that girl was that harassed her. But regardless, because games journalism said that all gamers are sexist, then therefore, like I remember they have the analogy that half the room being gamers themselves, got mad, and so that's Gamergate in essence, is people getting mad at games journalists for being unreasonable, and doing unethical practices, and games journalists not getting it, and anybody who doesn't understand how the thing started getting mad at the other side. That's Gamergate.
Yeah. I mean, I only, again, the only thing I know is that it's a meme, and I will often just like scream ethics in video game journalism in conversations. I'll just like scream that and like have no idea what I'm saying again.
Yes.
But it's funny to me because a bunch of other people are bothered by it.
Yes.
It'll, because I had this podcast called Toilet Cast Gamergate, and it got a community guideline strike because yeah, like I screamed like nigger and like kike in it a bunch of times, I think. And like I said like how much I hated women and stuff. And like it was supposed to be pro Gamergate versus anti Gamergate, and my former friend Weeb Trash Productions was like on the like I'm like Lacey Green is like my mom and all this other stuff side, and like he was trying to argue this. And so like he was like the SJW and I was the alt-right guy. And so we were just like slamming against each other with this stuff. And the podcast got a community guideline strike, and it is banned off of YouTube. I was afraid to re-upload it because I thought I would get another community guideline strike.
Yeah.
I have a copy of it on an old computer of mine that's just like not even plugged in, but I should probably save that before like the hard drive dies out or something, because it's like a computer from 2005. But I do have the podcast still. I gotta put it on BitChute or something. But yeah, like that video got a community guideline strike, even though it was just like a satire video. Like it was obviously satire what we were doing, but they said some offensive words in it about Gamergate. Can't do that on YouTube.
Yeah, because I was gonna say like the Plebe and the Weeb episode made by Endless Jess, which has 35 different slurs in it, most of them being nigger, some of them being kike, was not taken down, given a community guideline strike. But like I guess because he talked shit about Gamergate, that's why.
Yeah. Which, by the way, this video came out on a YouTube channel that's now inactive called Outlaws Toilet. This channel had like 11 subscribers at the time, like 19 subscribers, and yet they went out of their way to give it a community guideline strike when no one was watching this video. It had like 30 views. That was it.
You see, if you suppress them right away, then they'll be too afraid to rebel. So it's a good, it's a good, just like hashtag fucking justice for Mumkey. Fuck. I don't know if you know about that, justice for Mumkey.
Oh yeah, I do. I follow Mumkey's Twitch stream.
Okay.
Yeah.
How is that, by the way? I hate live streaming and I hate Twitch. So tell me how that's like.
Hates live streaming while he is currently on a live stream.
Yes. You got it.
No, I love live streams because it feels very much like a human interaction that you're having, but you don't have to actually interact with people. So I'm like, yes, I am saved from being real. But like, yeah, his streams are good. They're basically just his Let's Plays and his talk shows, but live. That's basically it.
Gotcha.
Sometimes he does like a random thing of like, oh, I'm gonna fuck around in GTA or something. But like, in general, they're pretty close to what his other content would have been.
Yeah.
It's just on Twitch now instead because he can't host it on YouTube.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Go ahead.
sorry, go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Yeah, okay. I was gonna say, yeah, I mean, like Mumkey Jones was shot down, was assassinated pretty quickly because, and I think this is why, mainly because he was getting popular. He was doing things Elliot Rodger related, which is, not really what they want to promote. But thing is, if they, he would get to the point if he were to continue to be popular and to grow, he would get to the point where he'd be like iDubbbz, where people would really notice if he was just suddenly went up and died. Like that's, I think, a really really important thing to know, because iDubbbz or Filthy Frank, their channels are safe because they're so big that people would legitimately bitch and complain, and news media would like report it if they got taken down.
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean the Harlem Shake meme is like a cultural icon thing. Like the
it's
Harlem
like
Shake that was
a decade.
huge.
Yeah, it's a decade, like focal point in terms of internet history, the Harlem Shake.
Yeah, like
So
talk show hosts did that and shit.
yeah, exactly. So if they were to take out the channel that did that, or like a channel that was involved with that group that's also really popular, then they would, obviously YouTube would get shit for it, and they don't want that because
Yeah.
YouTube is a bunch of pussies and they can't stand criticism from anybody because they're like, oh my god, the money. Anyways,
Yeah, I
so
mean that's how all companies are nowadays. Just because
yes,
they hear, "Oh, moms are upset about this, can't have that." So like they'll try to water down as much as they can just so these moms aren't upset. But like um and plus like Filthy Frank isn't just a cultural icon of this decade. He's also Joji. He's like a huge music star now. He
yeah.
has like hits with tens of millions of views. So it's like, how can you get rid of these videos when I mean he has a book and shit. Like like how can you take that down? But
Yeah.
they want to.
They want to. They
Like
want to take down Filthy Frank. They want to take down iDubbbz. They want them gone off the platform, but
yeah.
they can't. At
The
least,
interesting thing about iDubbbz is that they literally used Content Cop to kill Leafy, because YouTube had, what they did was that they had killed Leafy's channel in the algorithm. They had stopped promoting him. Then when Content Cop came out on Leafy, they had promoted the shit out of that, and Leafy died.
I mean,
So
it was on trending page, which iDubbbz never ends up on the trending page. So you're very much correct, my friend. I think it
yeah,
was on the trending page, anyways. Go
yeah,
ahead.
it was. Because I remember when that Content Cop came out. But yeah, like Mumkey's videos have been on the trending page before. I remember the I pretended to be Elliot Rodger on BetterHelp. That fucking came out on the trending page.
Really? That I
Yeah,
did not know that. That might have been an automatic algorithm thing that YouTube did not plan on, because they do check what's on the trending page. They know what's on there. They pay attention. So it's like, if that ended up on there, that's very interesting. I did not know
yeah,
that.
yeah. And I remember Mumkey posted on Twitter that the stupid Mario Bros retrospective that he did was on the trending page in the UK. So like he's been on there before, twice. So like how can YouTube just come out and shoot him down when they used to be his golden boy to an extent. Like it's weird to me that like they would go from promoting him to just shooting down his entire channel. But what I think it is Mumkey was seen differently by different members of the YouTube staff, because
Probably.
there's a conflict between the employees based on what was said on Twitter. Is that like some of them thought the videos were okay and then some of them didn't, but the ultimate decision was to keep him taken down. And so I think the people who would have had him put on the trending page had very different views about Mumkey's videos, and then
Yeah.
the people who took him down had very different views. And so like, because YouTube is such a big company that has so many different hands being exchanged within the process, it just happened to be that the employees on the top that day decided that Mumkey needed to go. But the other employees who were in charge of having his videos be trending didn't think he needed to go.
Yeah.
So like it's such a big company that it like all of these different things can happen at the same time and no one can know what the fuck is going on because it's just too big.
Yeah, exactly. And so nobody can really do anything about it. Which, by the way, really sucks, is I actually was watching his fucking he made a bunch of Evangelion vlogs before he made the Monkey Joe's anime review, Neon Genesis Evangelion, that are all I think really great, and because it does like a kind of an endless jest thing, except it keeps more to the script, but it like sort of evolves into something at least a few times for a few episodes beyond just an like an Ava quasi podcast, and it's amazing. But yeah, it definitely is like. Well, I mean, like obviously they want to kill him now before he can get too big and people would notice. So yeah, now he's dead. He's just on Twitch and he does a Twitch, and I miss him. I mean, like I want those fucking I want those goddamn videos back, but
they're just gone.
Yeah,
like,
I know, they're just gone.
Yeah, like he didn't have time to save all of those. I mean, luckily someone saved all of the Is It Kino podcasts, so that's good. But
yeah,
like I remember his second channel content was my favorite content from him, like the vlogs and the podcasts he did, because vlogs and podcasts are my favorite content on YouTube. So like I really enjoyed the stuff he did on there because it seemed like he was just always able to come up with something new. And he was very good at talking for long amounts of time with very few gaps or, mistakes in between. And he had a very nice voice. And so like when I would listen to his podcast, it always just felt very comfy and nice. And the fact that all of those are gone now before I got to listen to them is very disheartening for me because, he was one of those people who was like a go-to for me when I would like get depressed or something like that. I would put on a bunch of Mumkey videos and I felt, slightly better while listening to him. It was something to distract me. And now I have one less of those people. And it's like, God, why you do this to me, YouTube?
Yeah.
Why you have to, go after Richard Spencer or something. Don't go after Mumkey. But I don't know. It makes me sad, but like, it's one of those things that I just kind of had to accept as being, it is what it is. The Ava videos were really good. I did listen to all of those when they came out.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I did not.
Yeah, because I subscribed to Mumkey when he was at like 4,000 subscribers. And so I've been there for quite a long time. I watched him rise up. Because the thing is that Digi never linked his channel immediately. He just mentioned him offhandedly in a vlog that got like 3,000 views. And I'm one of those crazy people who doesn't look for people to link to channels. I just Google the channel as soon as they say them, like verbally.
Yeah.
So he had shouted out Mumkey in the vlog without linking to them. So I Google him and I subscribe to his channel immediately. And like that, like, because I would watch Digi's vlogs as soon as they would come out. So like I was one of the first viewers of that vlog, and I was one of the first people from his fan base to subscribe to Mumkey before him and Mumkey became friends. And so I was there like right at the beginning. And I watched Mumkey grow from all this time. I stayed a viewer. I kept being consistent watching his channel, and like it was just weird to see him change and grow so much and then just, be killed off of YouTube. Yeah,
exactly. I feel like I think YouTube does a number of things that are terrible, but also like they do a number of things that in reflection you're like, interesting. Not in a good way, just in a you know what I mean? Like it's like finding the onion ring in your Burger King fries. You're like, it's the best way I can describe it. For example, I'm going back through my subscriptions because I had at one point 1,000 subscriptions on my non-video making YouTube channel. I got to the point where it was 1,000 subscriptions officially, and so I currently it's at 969, but soon not to be. But because I'll randomly just when I'm bored go back through and look at old like channels I've subscribed to and just unclick them, because I've had my YouTube channel since like 2010, I think. And it's been a long, oh my god, but it's been 8 years or whatever. I've been on the website. I've been using the website regularly, like daily, since 2009. So I've been here a long time. I was here before they did the first UI change, back when the subscription bar used to be on the right and used to be yellow. So that's how long I've been here. But the thing is, I have a shit ton of subscriptions to like these like shitty let's play channels that are not relevant anymore, for sure. That YouTube killed, and thanks to that video that MatPat did that finally talked about the death of the let's play genre on the internet. That's a great video, but I have a good example. I have a few examples pulled up. So there is a channel right here called Gold Glove TV. I forget what it was called before. They probably renamed their channel. It has 1,312,710 subscribers, right? Well, 709 because I just unsubscribed. But and they get about 30K views a video. Like less than that. Like 30K is like on the upper end. Usually it's around like 10 to 20K is their general view count, which is fucking terrible. It's not even enough for YouTube to send that out to the subscription feeds. That's how bad the view like retention is on his stuff. And I mean, like, I'm looking at his thumbnails and it's all like, webcam. Like, there's a video here called Twitch clips of the week number 71. And I'm just like, oh my god. Like, that's just reminding me of the old days when I mean, there was a period in time in which I love talking about YouTube trends, and Let's Players are one of my favorite things to talk about, just because like it was so dominant on the website for so long, and then it just slowly dwindled and died to the point where the biggest channel didn't even do that anymore. He just does like weird reaction videos to memes now, but it's actually not terrible. It's fine content, but it's sort of like it's just a fascinating thing to look at. There's a few still successful self-sustaining channels out there that are able to sort of make ends meet and like continue doing Let's Plays and stuff, either because they have bigger channels that sort of promote them, or like they're just able to keep things going. Like, I forget, it's like Oni or whatever. I forget what channel that is, what it's called, but that's one.
Oni Plays.
Oni Plays. There's Game Grumps. There is the channels. Let's see. When we look at this fucking channel, hold up. It's the channel. The Super Gaming Brothers is still technically. Yeah. Okay. Thank God you know what that is. Yeah, they're still like relatively, self-sustaining. If a series goes for too long, then the views just drop. But that's just how like Let's Plays have always worked. But yeah, they're technically still like successful, quote unquote. They're successful for, well, they have pretty decent views for a channel with over 100K subs. That's gaming stuff in 2018. Let me say that.
Right. Yeah. Because like the Let's Play genre, people have just gotten bored with it by this point because it's so oversaturated, and so like the people who do care, they're going to be attached to these, legendary figures like Game Grumps and Oni, who are really good at what they do for their audience. So they're going to stick around. I mean, Game Grumps has kind of died off a little bit, but they're still around. They're still trucking through.
They're fine.
And then, like, you have PewDiePie, who will do a Let's Play video sometimes, but his videos aren't even like Let's Play videos, to be honest. Like, they're more like just watching him be himself,
Yeah.
Like, it's highly edited. It's PewDiePie just being PewDiePie.
Very elaborated memes is what I like to call them. That's every video PewDiePie makes, is a very long meme just stretched to like 15 minutes. That's how I feel.
I agree.
Yeah, it's very. Thank you. I think there's certain channels like that. Recently, a channel like ended. That was like probably, I think, the last actually decently successful Let's Play channel that wasn't like Grumps or Oni, and that was the Super Gaming, not the Super Gamers. I mean, the Super Best Friends Play, or the Switcher or whatever. They're now like dead. And it's sort of like, to me, that's sort of, I think that marks to me like the official end of the Let's Play genre on YouTube, is when those guys who aren't even, let's say, like as successful as like certain Let's Play group channels, but we're still doing good, still got good views, we still had a decently successful podcast, and made good content. And the fact that they're dead, not because of anything algorithmic like wise, but just personal stuff that the channel just collapsed. And it's like, damn, that's it. It's over. Like for sure, for sure, for sure. It's done now. And so it's like, I don't know. It's just again, it's like the onion ring and the French fry analogy I used like 20 minutes ago.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting to see how YouTube progresses and changes, especially with like the newer generation on YouTube, because like the people who are influenced by like AVGN, they had their time, but
Yeah,
now we're having people who are on YouTube who are influenced by PewDiePie and like Markiplier. Like they grew up watching stuff like that.
yeah,
They grew up watching the Vlog Brothers, and
yeah,
so it's really interesting for me to see these people who are starting out with YouTube channels now who are like my age, because I'm 16,
yeah.
and so like seeing them, try and figure out what is this YouTube ecosystem going to be. And I mean, like, I'm way off the beaten path when it comes to what they're doing, because I'm sitting over here influenced by like Digipro and Endless Jess and fucking Zabujard and shit. Like Zabujard has like 400 subscribers and he's been making YouTube videos since 2006, but he's one of my biggest influences.
Hmm.
Like that nigga started out on Newgrounds in 2002. Like
Yeah.
like and so like I'm taking influence from these like random internet lurkers who, most people don't even think about. But like so it's when I make my videos, there's that influence there. It makes sense. But like the people who are more in the collective consciousness now, like they're being influenced by Casey Neistat, etc. And so it's interesting to see how these trends are changing and how clickbait savvy the newer generation
Oh
on
my
YouTube
god,
is.
dude, they're so clickbait savvy. I saw a video uploaded by somebody I know who's going to the same college that I'm going to, and dude, it's their title is clickbait as fuck. Like they people nowadays they know what's up. When it comes to clickbait, and I do think like I do sort of detest the new YouTube environment and that like you can't swear as much. In many ways the content has become more diluted, less in depth. But in other ways, it's I think better, if that makes sense. Like somebody like Explanation Point, who makes videos like every couple of months, would never be successful in 2014. They just couldn't. They would
Yeah.
not be able to. There's a channel I think called I forget. Uh, it's
Get
ooh,
in the robot?
it's
I don't know.
Valkyrie. There we go. Valkyrie Aurora. That's what her name.
Hmm.
She's like a newer YouTuber. She's been around for maybe like less than a year. Her most popular series is a series called Valkyrie Ventures, which is a highly edited, sort of very meme saturated, sort of let's play where she plays through a game. The video is like maybe 20 to 40 minutes long. 40 minutes is on the upper tier. Like that's usually pretty rare. But those videos are those would never be successful in the old environment. Just because like you'd put in all that effort and the videos could only come out every couple of months and they'd get like crap views. But because
Clickbait.
yeah, but well, she doesn't even clickbait. The title is literally Valkyrie Ventures and then the game she's making. That's how basic the titles are. The good thumbnails, but still, it's like a very basic concept that's pretty like hard to do, and wouldn't have been successful in old YouTube, but now because of current YouTube, that's able to be produced. There was a channel called Controller Rulers, which is a Let's Play channel run by some Abridger people. They made the series Pokemon Abridged, which I don't know if anybody's seen. I never even watched it because I didn't give a fuck. But but I watched Controller Rollers, and Controller Rollers is the same thing. It was the same thing as Valkyrie Ventures, but it was with a group. It was with either two or more people, which is a great concept, and it's a highly edited, meme-filled, sort of like highly done, well done Let's Play that unfortunately, the original concept of the channel stopped because they realized they can make the same amount of views, if not more views, on like a normal style Let's Play. Because this is 2015, just for your context. This is when Let's Plays were on the out. but they were still like pretty regular on the platform. So they realized, like, why would they put in all this effort just to get like $1 or $2 on a video when they could do the same thing just with a normal Let's Play? So like a channel like Controller Rules that uploaded weekly, highly edited, really good videos, could not be successful at that time, YouTube in that time. But if they did that same channel nowadays, it could be.
Right.
That's the magic of YouTube.
Yeah, and I mean, like, it was interesting that you mentioned Explanation Point because, like you said, his videos would not survive in the old climate because people literally would detest clickbait on old YouTube. They were like, "Oh, get this the fuck out of here! What is this? You know, clickbait title, clickbait thumbnail. Fuck you!" You know, they would say all these things, but like nowadays, it's just the norm. People. If for people on anime YouTube, even like it's just a meme. It's like, oh yeah, Mother's Basement's gonna make the same 15 SAO videos again. All right, spray it all over me, daddy. But like, it's one of those things where like it would make no sense in 2012 or 2011 YouTube even for like someone who isn't pandering to children to do something like that. But now it's like everyone on the internet basically has just admitted, yeah, I'm a child. I'm going to click on pretty boob woman on thumbnail, you know? And so like Explanation Point can be successful because he's doing these things that the current YouTube paradigm wants him to do, but he's also making incredibly, creative and well edited content at the same time.
Exactly. Very. And so,
sorry.
Go ahead. No. You're into your point.
And so like, I think it's something a lot of creators can learn from nowadays where like, YouTube is less about, making creative animations and stuff like that. It's less about, making more long form Let's Plays, etc. It's not so simple. It's more about, trying to figure out what your personal brand is, what can people identify with this channel immediately, what can we do to get viewers reeled in clickbait wise. And personal brand is also really important because if you can make something extremely distinct, people will just flock to it immediately. Like new YouTube, because it's so oversaturated, it's much more about individuality and becoming distinct. Because if you can do a content that's different than everyone else, and if you can make your voice heard in a unique way, then people are going to flock to that because it's just different than what's going on, and people are tired of the same shit. Even like normies who watch the same shit again and again, they're still tired of it on a subconscious level. I think.
On a subconscious level, it sort of depends on like the thing about like those big like Disney Tube YouTubers is that they make content
day, bro, with that Disney Channel
flow. Oh my god, I could continue that rap. I know the first like fucking 4 verses. I know far too much. But the thing about like more, I guess, like because their content is very diverse, I guess you could say. Like Anna Akana, who is, in my opinion, the quintessential like YouTuber that YouTube wants, that can sort of be more authentic than your typical like old school vlogger, but at the same time still makes Disney Channel like YouTube content that YouTube can deal with. She I think, to me, like her content's very diverse. It's different. It's like each video is distinctly different from the last, not in style, but in terms of like a topic. So you get like a different thing of video. So that's what like I think a lot of normies sort of look for, is give me something interesting, give me something different to occupy my time, much like television. In that sense, it functions the same way. They give me like an interesting concept and let me roll with that for like 22 minutes.
Television with gimmicks, man. Everybody's about it.
Yeah, exactly. That's what Digi was talking about with Boogie Pop. Get a fucking gimmick and then have your weird spin on it. Do that, and people will like it.
Or the video art is fleeting, gimmicks are careers. Where like if you have an extremely unique gimmick, people are gonna flock to that and identify with it. Also, Schneider in the chat just said YouTube, the ultimate parasocial babysitter for children and also man children.
What is? Wait, what video is that?
Schneider on YouTube. I don't know who this is. He's just a commenter.
Oh, I gotcha.
Yeah. But I mean, I think he has a point here. Is that like most people who watch YouTube like obsessively, and this includes myself, is that I use it for like a substitute for friends.
Yeah.
Where I'm just listening to these two people who are really good at talking and really passionate about what they're doing, just kind of shooting the shit with each other, and then it feels like I'm having a friendship that I would not have been able to have otherwise. Not because I can't make friends, because, obviously I'm on a live stream with one right now, but to experience the friendship of someone else vicariously, to hear conversations that I would not have heard otherwise. And
Mm,
so it's like you're kind of leaning in on someone else's friendship and kind of overhearing what it would be like to be them. And so
yeah.
it's like a case study.
Yeah.
But some people, when they have no friends whatsoever, they use it to a much greater extent where they use it as a literal substitute for friends.
Yeah.
And I used to do this actually before I had any friends on the internet. There was like a year that I spent without any internet friends, and I would just watch YouTube videos. And I never left my room either. I would like leave my room maybe once every like 4 months.
Mm,
And I spent this entire year like pissing in bottles and shit and just like watching YouTube and making YouTube videos. I had no friends on the platform except for my man DZ Dog, who I would sometimes do a podcast with.
yeah.
We had the show called The D-Pad, and I would show up for that podcast like once a week, and that was the only social interaction I ever had. Other than that, I had no internet friends, no friends at all in real life either. And I would just constantly watch YouTube and make things. And I would say I was relatively unhappy at the time, but it was very interesting to experience that. Um, and yeah, I
Mm,
think a lot of people who do watch YouTube nowadays, they use it as a literal substitute for friendships. Like I've
yeah.
met a lot of people like this who watch my own videos. They're like, Outlaw, I like listening to your videos because you're a neat who shares similar ideas to me, and I can listen to you and I can pretend that you're my friend. And it's like, wow, this is some deep level shit.
I think though that is I think that's it's cool in a way, but I do think that's dangerous in just the fact that like people need to, this is the shit that Anna was fucking talking about, but it's we we're using escapism to escape reality, to get away, to get out of you know our lives, when we can like things. It's not bad to be really into like otaku. Like otaku isn't bad inherently, but when you use otaku as a lifestyle, or the things in it as like a means of escaping the real world or real relationships, it can negatively affect your mind. That's where like incels come from. Not to shit on incels, because I don't feel like that's necessary, but I
I mean,
think my
like,
point's made.
I think incel is unhealthy specifically because they just say they're involuntarily celibate when that's not a real thing. You're voluntarily taking away your celibacy by acting like a fucking autist. Like that's it. Like if you did not act like a fucking autist, you would be able to get laid. And I mean some people, they have extremely like bad physical appearances, but they're still able to get laid because they're charismatic. All you have to do is be funny and charismatic and meet the right person, and you can get laid. It's like not even that hard. And Schneider in the chat just said incels are failed normies. Exactly. Like they want to be a normie, but then they give up and they think that somehow the forces of the universe are keeping them from getting a girlfriend, when that is just not the case. Like you can do it if you try. You just have to spend an exorbitant amount of time trying to become a better person, but it is possible.
Yeah,
The movement that I actually do really like is Volcel, which I don't know if you know about this, is people who are voluntarily celibate. That is what they identify as, where they
yeah,
see relationships and sex as a waste of time, and so they have voluntarily made it to where they won't do that, and so they dedicate themselves to, like, whatever their passions are, or if they're into like a specific craft, they'll do that. Like, one of my favorite YouTubers is this guy called Mr. Daggers, and he's made several videos about being voluntarily celibate, where he just really hates humanity, and he seems to be happy living his lifestyle, like, based on his vlogs, where he's like, he's talking about it, and he's like, yeah, existence is kind of just, a flat line for me. It's not too great, it's not too terrible, but sometimes I feel like I'm living in hell. And like, like, he seems to be overall happy with his choice. But like, there's underlying problems, but I don't think they're necessarily caused by his hatred of humanity. I think his hatred of humanity is caused by the underlying problems. And so, like, there are people like that who, more power to them if they want to dedicate their lives to escapism or to a craft that they have, like making 1 hour vlogs that are entertaining and funny. And it's like, yeah, do it, go ahead. And like, I think, this should always be a choice for people, because I do think it is dangerous for people if they're not provided with the right ideological and spiritual weapons to protect them in isolation. If they're not, if they're not trying to make it to where their brain is like ready for this, or is even able to take this in the first place, then they're going to fuck up. They're not going to be happy in their time as someone who is a hermit or a neat. Because you think of someone like Joseph Campbell. He spent 5 years in isolation, just reading books all day. Like, he would wake up, he would read books and study things, and like, he just spent 5 years basically being a hikikomori. And he was able to do it because he had the right spiritual energy. He had the right ideological background to prepare him for a life like that. He was just a different person. And some people, they get into hikikomori and they don't like it. They do it because they're scared. And like, it goes back to what the guy in the chat was saying. They're failed normies. They want to be a normie, but they're just giving up. And those people, I would strongly suggest that they try to rehabilitate and become normal people, because that's what they need. That's what they want. But I also think, it shouldn't be discredited that there are people who just legitimately want to live a life of obsessive work and escapism. And I mean, if there are people like that out there, more power to them. I think Buddhist monks, for example, they exist. They spend their entire lives, cooped up in a temple, with very few other people around them, if any, and they're able to come out swinging, just as strong, if not stronger, than they were before, because again, they have the right ideological framework to protect them in that time. But not everyone can do that.
Yeah, I definitely would agree with the idea that, at least, like, like, if you obviously, the thing about isolation is that it can destroy the mind, but as long as somebody has like a means of, like, a basis for doing so, a logic for doing so, or like a way in which, like, they can sort of cope with it, then it's productive and healthy and it's fine. Like, there's people who go out and like live off the land. Like, I'm not saying those people are like fucking broken, but most people who isolate themselves, I would say, do not want to be. They are those who, like, as mentioned, failed the normies. They are literally fucking, like, I know you don't like, you kind of get it, but you don't like it, but I'm gonna say they're fucking Shinji from Eva, where they want to relate to people, but they suck, so they can't.
No, this is why I hate Shinji from Eva. Because Shinji from Eva is literally these people. That's why I hate Shinji, because I hate these people.
Well, I think, Evangelion's conclusions, I think, are important, because depending on like which ending, because there are two endings that, like, two different conclusions can help people in those scenarios, because they're both focused on different things. One, like, I say, the question that is answered by the end of the show is, what does it mean to be me, and why should I not hate myself? Those are the two questions that are answered by the end of the show. The answer by the end of and the movie End of Evangelion is, why should I talk to people, period? Why bother ever interacting with another person if you're just going to be miserable and they're just going to hurt you? Which I think are both good questions that need to be answered for people in those situations who don't want to be. And obviously, Shinji comes to those conclusions or is helped in a way to go to those conclusions through the circumstances that happen in the show, which is why I think Eva is great, because it's made for the people who would watch a shit ton of anime or like obsessively watch shit. It's made for otakus, hikikomori types, to help them who don't want to be there function in society and not give them like an answer that's going to make them hate themselves even more, which is the main problem I have with the device for people like who are in those situations who don't know how to get out of it.
Yeah, I mean, one of my problems with Eva is that people who watch it are usually like obsessed with their identity, and like they like tie their identity to their entire like well-being as a person, when your identity should be constantly changing. You should have like a moral framework by which you're guided from. But like a lot of my problem with so many people who watch Eva is the they're like Shinji. They're just like obsessed with their identity and like trying to go through the world searching for it. But like I feel like that entire path is just meaningless. Like you should just logically decide, okay, these are the right things to do, and I'm just gonna be whatever from there. I don't know. I'm very against the concept of identity, and that's one of the reasons why I don't like Eva.
What the fuck? Wait. They're literally doing it wrong. Because here's the thing about fucking Eva, right? The whole thing about so one of the things about episode 26 is the nature of self. That's like one of the things it tries to tackle is the nature of self. And the thing is, one of the main conclusions is that you yourself, your identity is self-interpreted. It's mostly based upon what other people see in you, and then you sort of take that stimuli and then you bounce it off you and you sort of interpret that. But you can make it whatever the fuck you want it to be. It's very malleable in that way. And that's where sort of, I don't know, the imagery of Shinji changing into different things, that's where that comes from, is fucking this concept of you have the full ability to change who you are, how you act, despite the circumstances that might have brought you to that conclusion. If you can realize that, then you have a chance of as you mentioned, logically being I want to be this or that or whatever. And that's the thing, is that identity is malleable, and it's not it's not something that needs to be sought, but something that needs to be uncovered, discovered, and molded like a fucking clay paint, like a clay thingy, or like a statue. Oh my god, they're doing it wrong. I'm getting mad. Okay, I'm done.
Razor Reviews massive fail alive on stream, freak out, exposed, gone
wild, gone sexual, 18 and up. Fucking
no, you can't put 18 and up, or else the kids won't click on it.
No, then all the kids will click on it. It's reverse psychology, my friend.
But what if YouTube age restricts it? we gotta get it on YouTube Kids, Razor. You don't understand.
Oh, that's very true. Then puts fucking, instead of Razor Reviews, put Spider-Man or some shit like that. There you go.
See, how are they going to buy our merch if we get a community guideline strike? You gotta think about the future here.
Yeah, how are they supposed to pledge our Patreon if they can't even see the video to get to the link to our Patreon? So, very true.
Buy that merch.
Oh my god.
Oh god, I fucking hate Jake Paul so much.
There reminds me of the perfect ad to me. The perfect encapsulation of advertising is the Ant-Man ad, where it's Paul Rudd, and I forget the guy who plays the older dude in Ant-Man. It's just them clapping and being ants, Ant-Man, and it's 15 seconds. It's the best ad ever, but but that to me is literally advertising summed up in 20 seconds. Oh my god, let me see if I can find it. It's amazing. Holy shit, I'll post it in your live stream chat because I love this thing so much.
I think I have to make you a mod, or wait, no, actually I can just click allow on stream, can't I? Whoa, you've been streaming for almost 2 hours. I didn't know I was streaming for almost 2 hours. It feels like we've been streaming for 30 minutes.
I noticed that an hour ago. I was damn, this had been going for a while, but I was it's cool. Let's see here. Oh, here it is. There's a couple of these. By the way, this was an official Marvel trailer for the movie Ant-Man. So just so you know, unfortunately I can't find the clip that like is the one from Marvel themselves, but I can give you one at least. It's uploaded. That's decent quality. So here,
Nice.
okay, where the fuck
Cool.
is it, the tab? I have this. Okay, there we go. So I'll just. So where do you want me to post this?
Just post it on the live stream chat.
Okay,
Um,
I'll post it. So people will now know what channel is who watched this live stream. Which channel is my personal channel? I don't care. But here you go. I posted it.
you're getting doxxed live on stream.
Oh no!
Yeah, the thing what happens with me whenever I'm talking to someone is that I get so immersed in what I'm doing is that I actually forget the amount of time that I've been going. And so like whenever I do a live stream with somebody else, or like when I'm in a Discord call and I'm really engrossed in what I'm doing, I'll always like just forget how long I'm going. I remember this was legendary. I was in a call with Mr. Cynical, Erato, and some other guy. And we were in that call for like 15 hours. And it was it was epic. I gotta say that.
Wow.
Yeah, that was very epic. It was 15-hour call that we did on Discord, and I barely felt it. Like I was like, yeah, okay, I guess I've been here for this amount of time according to you. But I was still passionate about the conversation by the end of it. So I can go very long times in conversation. Also, it didn't show up on the live chat, so you can just send me it on Discord and then I'll post it in the chat.
Gotcha. It should be. Let's see here. There we go. It's the Ant-Man promo, official promo. Again, I have to emphasize this. This is an official promo that was like done done by the people who did the things, who made Marvel stuff. It's good. I swear to God. I mean, like.
This is a masterpiece. You don't understand.
I told you. It's literally advertising encapsulated into 15 seconds. Like, it's beautiful. There's like obscene sound and music for like no reason. It's literally perfect. There's nothing else more wholesome and perfect than that piece of advertising.
That's pretty great.
Yeah, I know. I like how they also promoted the Facebook in that trailer at the very end when they got to the now playing part. Just factoid for people who've seen the video.
Whoa, I just realized, okay, it actually did show you posting it, but because I had the top chat opened, I couldn't see the entire chat. And so I changed it to live chat. I didn't even know you could do this on YouTube where it shows all messages visible instead.
That's what? Cool. There's oh shit! I didn't even know you could change that.
Yeah, apparently there was a few messages that have been posted too, that I didn't even see because fucking YouTube doing this bullshit.
Let's see here. Interesting. A comment left by DZD. As a Christian, Christ calls us to be peculiar people. We can enjoy things from the secular world, but we run risk of having our identities be formed by it. Very interesting. Very interesting.
That's more of like a collectivist type of way of looking at life, I believe. Which as a collectivist, I can appreciate that.
I think it's really strange the notion between individuality and collectivism. Can I just say that? Because individualism and collectivism is not a debate. Everyone should shut the fuck up, because that is not a debate. Because individualism is dumb and stupid and wrong.
Yes, thank you.
Because individualism makes no sense. It's not like, because individualism is the notion that like we are all autonomous beings that loosely collect together and make society. That's individualism. But individualism completely rejects social psychology, sociology, like things that individualists supposedly care about. Is like evolutionary psychology and shit like that. Like that, in that they say humans are social species And inherently speaking, what happens in groups is very informative of what happens to society. And individualism as an ideology rejects that entirely. So like the notion to me, at least, as sort of like as a humanist, for example, is like whatever the fuck, like if somebody is suffering in like Vietnam in a Vietnamese sweatshop factory making some like somebody's undergarment, then that to me affects me in a multitude of different ways. And therefore, as I see it as an injustice, I think it should be fixed. That's a very collectivist way of looking at things. But like an individualist would say, oh, that person, because of their choices, is put in that situation. And like they're making their own choices and doing stuff with their own money and blah, 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 blah. But
Even
like,
though the
yeah,
rates of rich people becoming rich by their own means is extremely low.
yeah, it's lower than people want to believe it is,
Yeah.
for sure. So it's sort of, it's just it rejects the notion of how society functions normally. It's sort of
Actually,
like,
the
yeah,
interesting thing is, did you know that in Vietnam they actually have a higher rate of people becoming rich there than in the US? Because in the United States has the same level of people getting out of poverty as India and Bangladesh. And Vietnam actually has a higher rate of people becoming rich and or getting out of poverty.
that wouldn't surprise me that Vietnam has a better social mobility than the United States of America. That for some reason that doesn't surprise me. In
They're
fact,
also one of the happiest countries in the entire world and one of the greenest. They're doing better in terms of like environmental safety and stuff than Germany.
that's really surprising, but I think a lot of that is influenced by just Vietnamese sort of like history and culture, just the way it functions. It doesn't like fucking with the environment. I think well the environment is just important in terms of like their history and just how like they're able to like fight off wars because of like the forest and the jungle and all that shit. So like it's very important, I think, just historically speaking. So that makes a lot of sense why, even just from like a surface level, shallow examination as to why they would do something like that.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, I'm trying to
Unlike
find
the
the exact
Chinese,
study.
they
Oh,
don't give a
sorry, go.
fuck. Sorry, that was it. I was done.
Oh yeah, yeah. The Chinese are very bad about this site. I actually read an article recently that talked about how they're trying to artificially clean the air with like this weird air purifier that's the biggest air purifier in the world. It's in the middle of a big Chinese city, and they're trying to artificially clean the air like that, which I mean, no shade on Xi Jinping. I love the guy, but like, come on, man. This is just clean the fucking air.
I'd have a beer with the man, but like, come on, bro, hold your horses.
It's like yeah, the environmental situation in China is very bad.
Yeah,
One criticism I do have of the Xi Jinping government is that they're focusing so much on the like the Belts and Road initiative and like trying to like literally rebuild the Silk Road,
yeah,
and like building all of these like train tracks and stuff in their country, which is, to be fair, really cool that they're building those train tracks.
yeah,
But like they're focusing so much on like their international mobility and not on cleaning the environment in their own country, which, to be fair, they're making progress, but like they're not doing enough. They need to be doing much more. But the problem is that the way that their economy is based on industry and all these other things, it if they were to make a significant change in their carbon footprint, they would be making their economy much worse, and so they can't have that.
yeah,
It is kind of a depressing situation where, like, in Vietnam, you know, they actually take advantage of the fact that it's like more of a status type of system where they can actually have control over the environment, which, I mean, there is a lot of democracy in Vietnam. People don't actually know about that.
yeah,
But like, because the government, you know, can just run through everything and it's more direct, like they can just, you know, okay, we want to do this, let's do it. You know, they're much more able to preserve the environment, I think, because the government in Beijing has less of a reason to do that. You know, by their own standard, they don't do it when they easily could.
mm,
So It's interesting to look at like how the two systems match up to each other because they're ostensibly the same system. It's just that in Vietnam they have different goals and different ideals
Yeah,
because of, like you said, how they are culturally.
yeah,
And I do think that um, it's especially interesting given the fact that the world is changing to a much more authoritarian tide, where people are realizing that liberal democracies kind of have a few flaws, and
yeah,
some people like fascists, they think those flaws are very different than what leftists and other
yeah,
people do,
yeah,
but like regardless, there are people who think, okay, democracy as a system right now isn't as good as it could be. We got to be doing something else. And a lot of people are like looking to authoritarian type systems or just status type systems or more centrally planned systems
mm,
as a way to do things different. And you see like a lot of these people writing the articles that I was talking about, like it's showing how people are looking at the results that these systems are making and they're like, okay, liberal democracies haven't done anything like this yet.
yeah,
And so it's very interesting to see how the tide is changing because a lot more authoritarian type leaders are being elected now, and a lot of that influence is seeping into culture. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see how this turns out
yeah.
in the next 10 years.
Yeah, before we all die of climate change, of course. Can't wait for
Oof.
that. Uh, so, you mentioning authoritarianism. I don't know why it reminded me of this. Just forgive me if it seems kind of dumb, but I think the thing about the left is that it has a huge, so there's the whole concept of the validation gang, right? That
Yeah.
like it's a collective of people who are only together purely because they don't like a thing. Well, not purely, but like that's a lot of it, right? Like a lot of the sort of skeptics, at least back in the day, they were associated by just they hate the SJWs, so like we're gonna stick together. I think on the left we have this problem where like we have like a basis for our ideology, but like there are still validation gangs in the left itself that are like their own groups. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
a lot of like a lot of the problem is that like a lot of like intersectionalist types are end up getting themselves sucked into validation gangs. Angela Nagel talks about this in Kill All Normies of when Mark Fisher was basically harassed like insensitively after he wrote the article Exiting the Vampire Castle that was talking about essentially like sort of like SJW intersectionalist types, ID poll types that are fucking wacko loony that end up actually being bad for optics and sort of kicking people out of the left instead of welcoming them in and then helping to sort of like educate them on like topics that maybe they're not fully informed about or whatever, and it's unproductive.
Right.
uh I think like the left has a problem with shit like that they refuse to talk about, except they do, but they're labeled grocerlists and they're sort of kicked to the curb because there are some people in that camp who sort of like are like, let's have the revolution and not really talk about minorities, but it's a very small group of people, and most are just sort of like most brocialists I've talked to or I've like read about on Twitter are basically just people who are agree with almost the exact same things that like a lot of ID poll people care about. They literally believe in the same fucking thing, but it's just how they sort of treat it, how they go about it is different.
Mm.
And so because of that, they're labeled as such and they're sort of thrown to the curb by a lot of people and sort of seen as undesirables or irredeemables and are bad people, I guess. The hashtag are not my comrade, and it's just it's goofy as fuck. Like and I think a lot of these people, I don't know, I just don't think that like not everything they believe is good or productive. Like I don't know, you have you heard of the anime Keijo?
Yeah, the
Yes.
boobs one.
Yes, technically it's the butt one, but it's boobs is like the minor part. It's like
It's the
butt
same
is
thing,
like
whatever.
it's not, my friend. But
Oh, okay. This is a debate for another day, but
this
okay,
is
go
this is
ahead.
another day. But Keijo should exist. It should be a thing that should exist in a socialist society. Things like Keijo should be able to allow to exist. Because for one, I think Keijo's hilarious. It's like one of my new favorite things. It's so funny. It's great because it's very self-aware about what it is. It's very aware that it's a dumb sports anime about women hitting each other with their butts. That's as intense as like a sports anime. It's great. And that's sort of like that. It's the comedy on top of like just the normal comedy in the show. The sort of meta comedy about it is fun. It's just a fun show to watch, despite how like the animation isn't always the best and like the characters are not great. That's like, which is things that normally I would care about. I don't, because it's hilarious and it's like just having boobs and ass all over the place is just, it's just really entertaining. I want something like that to exist, but a lot of those types that would sort of write off people as brocialist, fucking hashtag not my comrade types, would be like, fuck that, that's sexist, that's misogynistic, that objectifies women, take that out of here, that doesn't need to be in our society. But I don't think that's
because they get offended. They're snowflakes.
Shout out to Ben Shapiro.
I mean, I say this like it's a joke, but unironically, I've been making several shit posts about this. I don't know if you know about this, but I've been on like a crusade against the left lately because of I don't know if I should get into this right now because I'm gonna get crucified if I say this, but yeah, there's certain members of the left who have been particularly bad about fucking using ableist slurs and shit. Oh, it's like, oh, he can't say stupid. He can't say stupid or crazy because it's ableist wording. And it's like, do you people really think anyone is ever going to listen to you if you just hate fun that much? Like, this is the thing with people on the left. Like, they don't know how to make jokes, first of all, and that really kills them.
Yeah.
And second of all,
Capo does, but they get shit for it. But yeah, I get what you're saying. Go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, like I mean, Chapo's great. Like, there's a reason why Chapo Trap House makes literally $100,000 a month on Patreon. But like, other than them, you know, like people on the left, they don't know how to make jokes. And they're fucking. You know, they go around and like you said, they're validation gangs, and it's like, I'm gonna say everything that my group wants. We are right. Let's just keep going back and forth between each other, whether or not it's morally right or there's any moral center to it. It's just, we're right, and so we're gonna keep repeating that back to each other. And then anybody who disagrees with us, what we're gonna do is we're gonna shoot that person ideologically. Hey, did you come into my farm over here, my little my little room of people? This is our tribe, this is our group. Yeah, you have some different ideas there. Instead of talking about it, how about we just shoot you on the spot? All right. And so like they just take these ideologies that they have, and instead of trying to talk with people about them, or trying to invite new people into their space, what they do is they just shoot everyone down who disagrees with them. And they get so offended when someone like says something that's like slightly different, or like, you know, seems disrespectful on the surface, but instead of like explaining to them why it is disrespectful, they just shoot it down immediately. And like there's all this like people not being able to get jokes or like do jokes right or invite people, and it's just a lot of it is just very secular. You know, we're in our group, we believe what our group says, we say what we say to foster our group, but you never see very many new people coming in. That's the problem. Like it was funny how D said that Marxism and leftist ideologies are just counterfeit spirituality, because they literally treat it like it's Jesus.
They literally treat it like it's Jesus. Like if you don't suck the dick of like the loved feminist of the day, then you are literally a sexist pig and you need to go kill yourself. That's like, it reminds me, it's like this sort of this Al Capone-esque fucking just way of like looking at someone like, hey, you want to disagree with me? You say you think that's a bad idea? Boom, you're fucking dead. Not even a question. Like, it's sort of like that, I think. You know, I don't think it's just not productive. I don't think, in terms of uh, discourse. Like, I think I have this really nuanced notion, partially developed thanks to iDubbbz, about how, like, slurs should function, the way just language works. I have a more, I guess you could say, postmodern-esque viewing of it, where it's like language is a very malleable construct. It's a construct itself, that evolves and changes over time. 50 years ago, Negro was just how you referred to black people. Now it's offensive. Like, where in
Not
between the
offensive
six?
to me.
Yeah, keyword there, right? But like, where the fuck happened between like 1965 and like 1985 that made that word offensive? Like, people were just like, that's probably, you probably shouldn't say that. It's too close. Like, let's just remove any word from the dictionary or the common lexicon that relates to the N word. That at least anybody who's not black can't say.
Yeah.
I think like shit like that, I think, is very unproductive. Like, you hit a good point with the whole ableist stuff. That reminds me of our socialism. It
Oh God.
gets very finicky about stuff like that, and that's why I'm very careful when I'm on that sub about like what
I
I
don't
say.
even bother with them. They don't even listen.
They post good articles sometimes. That's why I'm like, damn, that's a good article. So I check there sometimes.
Yeah.
But in
I mean,
general, it's
I
terrible.
agree. Yeah. Like I remember when Jason Unruh debated our socialism and the entire thing was just literal autism the entire time.
I'd never finished it. What happened? Can you give me like
Uh
a TLDR,
I watched that
TLDW?
video like a year ago. I don't I don't remember anymore, but I just remember the people in there were very angry.
Mm.
And I mean, like Jason wasn't like giving like super like transphobic rhetoric or anything. He wasn't giving a lot of hot takes. He was just like debating them. And like I think they ended the call or something cuz they were just so bothered by him.
Mm.
But like yeah, and I mean Jason isn't like the representative of what all of the left should think or anything, but like
No, definitely not. Definitely not. No, no. But go ahead.
uh, but like you should hear the guy out. You shouldn't just get totally pissed and then not listen to anything he says just because he's you know different. But like I don't know, it's one of those things where people need to learn how to be much more basic with the stuff they say, first of all, and
Yeah.
also to say it in a funny and charismatic way that invites people.
Mm.
Because there's a reason why Michael Perrienti, for example, was a popular speaker, is
Mm.
because he's good at it. He's
Yeah.
very good at rallying a crowd and hitting someone's emotions. And one of my favorite speeches that he did was where he talked about Cuba, and he
I've seen
talked
the video.
about the literacy rates that they had there,
Mm.
and the way that he hits the point home with his audience emotionally was he gets this like really genuine lines about how his father grew up not being able to read and how he still can't read and how that was like terrible and like disgusting for him to have to tell his son, for his son to have to realize that he couldn't read. And like it was like a huge amount of shame for him, but it was because of the poverty that he lived in.
Mm.
And like Perrienti was going on and on about how this felt, and he was really conveying the emotions of that in his speech. And that's something that almost everyone can understand at the very least, and some people they can relate to on a deep level, especially back then in the 80s when he was
Yeah.
doing that speech. And so he relates that emotional concept or that emotional situation that people can empathize with very heavily, and he presents it in an extremely empathetic manner, and then he ties it to the extreme levels of development that Cuba had made.
Mm.
And so he's making his ideological point while appealing to people's emotions, and that gets people, that
Yeah.
gets people to come more towards your side or at least understand it.
Yeah.
And people aren't doing that. ContraPoint says it sometimes because
Yeah.
she's actually good at her job, but like
Yeah.
yeah, like a lot of
Love
people.
Natalie.
Yeah, oh yeah, she's great.
Yeah.
She's a queen, but like
Yeah.
um people aren't doing this, and part of it is because a lot of them are just like in their 20s and they're not really, they haven't really focused on how to do these things well. But like that's why we need some of the older people I mean, there are older people. They're just writing books. They're not on YouTube where
Yeah,
everyone else is. And
yeah.
so like,
Or they have like, or yeah, like the really old people do like talks and write books. They're not. I think the exception of this rule, I think, is probably like Douglas Lane and anybody who works at like Zero Books. They're
mm,
pretty like in tune with like what the general zeitgeist of the internet is. They're kind of older. Like Douglas Lane, his son is like in his 20s. Like he's a pretty old guy.
mm. I
But
mean,
he's
Richard
still
Wolf
like hip.
does stuff
Yeah,
too.
Richard Wolf is pretty hip too.
I
I say
mean,
hip
Paul
twice.
Cockshot exists on the internet, but Paul Cockshot's videos do not they don't adapt well to the current internet paradigm. Let's just say
Yeah,
that.
I would agree. Um, I
He's
think
good. He's really good. He's doing more to organize the left than probably anybody else, but his videos are not well made at all.
oh my god, dude. Oh god. I've seen terrible like sub 100 view let's plays than some of Michael Crockshot's videos in terms of production value. Oh my god.
Oh,
It's
oh god.
but like yeah, we need more. I think a speaker to me that's always been really good at sort of communicating its point while also still being highly ideological is anything that Fred Hampton says. If you look at his quotes, if you look at like the recordings by people who saw his speeches, all of his great speeches were really sort of impactful, not only because he talked loud, he was a loud speaker, his cadence was pretty like, loud and sort of like this sort of, I don't know how to describe it. It sort of had a flow to it, I guess you could say.
Need more of
Um,
that. Yeah.
yeah, there's this sort of, but he would always sort of give his like it always felt real and authentic. It was always very raw. It was always
Yeah.
like this thing he was had on its mind that he was able to sort of mold in this fucking work of art that is his speech. It's very this kind of avant-garde kind of aesthetic, I think, to it.
Yeah.
And there's not a whole lot of that anymore.
Mm.
We need sort of like if we like I think obviously ContraPoints is doing a pretty good job at that. Peter Coffin is doing pretty good in terms of like trying to do stuff like that, of trying to explain his point in a way that's palpable to people. Philosophy Tube does a wonderful fucking job at it.
Oh
Oh my
yeah,
god.
he wants to fuck the queen. He's
He
very good.
he wants to fuck the queen. Like I think he's probably my favorite leftist YouTuber at this point, even though technically his videos are not ostensibly supposed to be pro left, but like they are because he's like fucking at this point.
Yeah.
um, you
He's a
know,
good boy.
yeah, he's
Um
a great boy.
the thing about the left is that I feel like we just aren't taking enough lessons from Hitler. Like the this is the thing about
Mhm.
Hitler is that he was a very very good speaker. Um, and like, if you watch his speeches, he gets a crowd. He gets people to be riled up, and people listen to him. They get excited. But like, as soon as you say that, it's like people are like, "Whoa, dude! You're taking ideas from a fascist." That's the problem, is that they don't look at what everybody does. You can look at how Hitler talks, and you're
Yeah.
not necessarily a fascist for taking those elements from him. But leftists are so scared of this idea of taking anything technical from the other side, when you need to be looking at what the other side is doing to get people listening to them.
Yeah,
That's
so
how you adopt those tactics to spread your own ideas.
that's how we win. That's how winning is done. I just want to side aside. It's not related to anything, but Schneider in the chat was like, important question: Are traps gay? Uh,
Oh boy.
no. So moving on.
um,
Continuing on the conversation.
it depends. If it looks like a woman, then it's not gay.
Yeah, and as long as you don't look at it, it's good. Um, you're all good, dog. Objectively speaking, as long
I
as you don't
mean,
look at it.
if you're fucking someone and if you're thinking about a woman, is that really gay? I don't know.
I mean, like, exactly. I mean, like, honestly, if you go to like a glory hole, you have no idea who is really behind there. It could be a guy. You don't know.
I mean, like, if it literally, like, the concept of gender, and this is gonna sound this is gonna make people on the left hate me, because the people on the left don't like to hear this, but gender is literally not real. Like, this is people on the left are just so obsessed with this idea of like gender and gender norms and like I want to fit into all of these different things. But literally all it is just performative. You perform a certain thing,
Mm,
and instead I think what people should be focusing on is who is this individual, and like notions of what gay or straight is, it shouldn't matter. It shouldn't, none of this should matter. Just like if you feel attracted to something, then be attracted to it. Like, I think like biological terms are important.
mm,
Like, you know, like what your biological sex is, that's literally like informed by you know, by science. But like this whole idea of like, you know, I'm a woman because I perform my gender, like your gender's not even real. Like none of you people's gender is even real. It's
yeah.
all, you're all conjuring this idea in order to perform a character or an archetype to other people because you want people to treat you a certain way.
Mm,
And like that's what I talk about when it's performative, is that like people, they become so obsessed like with gender dysphoria, for example. The dysphoria, in my own experience at least, was like wanting other people to see me a certain way, wanting to people to treat me a certain way, um because of the position women are in socially. Now, I don't identify that way anymore, but like at one point I did.
mm,
And so the reason why I did that was because I had seen you know, the way that women were treated, and I was like, I want that. And so like a lot of it just has to do with like this obsession with like social roles and social performance. But if you can cut that out, if you can take that away from the way that you think about the world, I think a lot of people will be less dysphoric and will care about gender less, because gender is irrelevant. It's about individuals. It's about how you act on an individual basis. It's not about how other people treat you or how you perform. It's about who you are on a more complex level, I think.
yeah. Um, I think, well, I mean, like a lot of thing about like, transgender, the way it sort of functions is sort of like, this performance kind of thing. Like there's the biological aspect of like, I don't like these parts on my body. And then there's the performative aspect of like, you know, I want to perform as a dude and I want to be seen as a dude because I feel as though dude, is the performance that I'm called to, is the one that I always should have been. And also it's added to the fact that like if you have those parts, you should act a certain way. And I
Mm,
think that's a very like strange way. Like you could be like, I want these parts, but I don't want to perform in that sort of way. But
yeah,
sort of get in their head that
because
like we have to.
there's the two opposing sides, right? There's the people who think penis is male, woman is vagina, which is very, you know, rudimentary. And
Yeah.
then there's the people who are like gender is an abstract concept that you just act. It's like I think that I think therefore I am, you know?
Yeah,
Um
very cognito, if you will.
yes, exactly. And I think both of these sides are just completely wrong.
Mm.
And that's why both of these sides hate me, because like my trans friends hate me for thinking these things. And then the people on the right hate me for thinking these things. But
Well,
like,
yeah, because the right hates you for being degenerate, and your trans friends hate you because you're not being Cartesian enough. Like that's just sort of what's
yeah,
happening at this
yeah,
point.
like I'm not kowtowing to, you know, exactly what their view of gender is, and so therefore it is offensive. But like I'm not, it's not like I'm going to call you what you don't want to be called. It's not like I'm going to see you in a different way. It's just that I think gender holds people back. I think it makes it to where, you know, people you become so obsessed with that paradigm that they don't actually treat themselves as much of an individual as they could be. And like there is something to be said about the biological argument of like some people are just born wanting different parts, and you can change that maybe to some extent, but I feel like for some people you just can't. Like some people, their feelings are just too severe and that's why the surgery exists, to get a vagina,
Mhm.
and that's totally fine. If that's
Yeah.
your choice, that is up to you. At the end of the day, that's what you want to do with your
Yeah,
life.
go get the vagine if you so
Yeah.
wish so, but at the same time, it ultimately doesn't matter.
Yeah. And I think this is an important thing that a lot of trans activists do forget about, is that it is a choice. Like, yeah, it is a very big strain on your life, and like maybe it can't entirely be changed depending on who you are, but you're still choosing to do that. And
Mm,
like I do have a problem with this rhetoric of like I was born this way, etc. But like no one is born wanting to be another gender. There's no evidence that says that that's the case. Like most, like even with like the development of sexuality and stuff, like yes, there's enough evidence to say that people are born that way, but when it comes to like your preferences and like how that sexuality develops, it's
mhm.
undeniably your upbringing plays a factor in that.
Yeah.
um and like I'm really I'm just really annoyed by a lot of trans activists just full sail saying we were born this way, and so that's just okay for us to be transgender. And like I think the reason why they do this is because it makes it more accessible to boomers. Like
Mm,
it makes it to where, oh, they were just born in the wrong body, it makes perfect sense to them because it's simple. But the reality of the situation is that it's not that simple.
no, it's really
and
not.
and so it's good for to propagandize people, but like it's not good when you want to have like a scientific discussion. And
Yeah.
like I do support like trans kids, like children being
Mhm.
trans, because I think less people being born is good, and if you kill off your sex organs when you're a kid, that keeps the population from getting bigger. Because this is the thing about me, is that I view being alive as a net negative. I view being alive as an inherently bad thing. And so the fact that and I view having children as being immoral. That is, it is wrong to have kids. And so like um so I view this whole like people having their kids become trans if they want to become trans, that's a good thing because it's keeping more babies from being made. And so like while I don't necessarily support it on like a scientific level, I still support its existence because at the end of the day it's still good.
Yeah, I can. It's very unorthodox opinion about like trans kids. Like that whole thing for me. The only reason I'd say I don't, I'm not into the whole trans kids thing is not because of like their personal choice or whatever. It's just the fact that like when people get surgeries at that young age, the tendency to regret those surgeries is astronomically high for like people who are older. Like once they
I
get
don't
into like,
care. I literally don't
see,
care.
see,
Like
you don't care, but I do care. That's like why have speed limits? Well, for one, drivers that sucks, and two, it's like preventing people from dicking themselves over, which I would prefer if that happened.
I
So
mean, they don't. The only like the sexual reassignment surgery they get when they're 18. Like the
yeah,
surgeries for like breast implants. I don't think a child would be allowed to get that. Like HRT they get, which I mean, yeah, it kills their it kills their dick or whatever. But like, even if you regret that, at the end of the day, you can still get over it. Like it's yeah, you can't have kids, whatever. Get the fuck over it, crybaby. Like it's it's I don't know. It's one of those things where I have very little empathy for people who regret these things later because I just don't.
you. I mean, you choose not to. That's. I mean, that's your prerogative, my friend. Um, I mean, like that's sort of like that whole thing is like how you view existence and how you would view children, you know? I mean, like, I don't know. I think there's this whole notion of like essence, and I think our essence as a biological organism is to procreate.
Mm,
And so, like, you don't have to, but if you do, then that's natural. You know what I mean? That's sort of like what our lizard brain is telling us to do, and it's fine to do that as well.
mm.
Um, I think like I think the idea to me to like create a thing just like a being, and this is a person. You can like change them and like mold them into become like a cool fucking boy. I think that to me is I think the cool part about like childbirth and stuff. So like to
Well,
like
yeah, it's being able to see your legacy, put on display. It's being able to see that, like, oh wow, my genes made this thing. But like beyond that, you have to have a child be born into climate change, where like the world is like rapidly getting worse. You have to have a child being born where they can feel pain. That's not very cool. And like for me, it's like I would rather adopt a child because that's like doing a morally good thing. That's
yeah.
literally rescuing a kid from being in a foster home for the rest of their life where their mind is going to get mentally destroyed. And so like I don't want to have a kid of my own because again, like I believe bringing a new life into a world where they suffer is wrong, but also my genes are not the best. If I were to have a kid, they would be susceptible to like mental disorders, high blood pressure, cancer, all kinds of things that my family has
Mm.
that, it would make it to where the kid could have a really tough life. Autism and schizophrenia run in my family. Like, I don't want these things to happen to the
See,
kid.
that's a very smart way of like removing bad things from the gene pool. A very smart like sort of
Just
type of
don't do it.
artificial selection. I think a thing about my end is that I come from like a line of like naturally like smart people. So I feel like in a way, if I were to not procreate, it'd be a disservice to humanity itself. It's like a
Mm.
weird humanistic way to look at it. Also an arrogant way to look at it, I guess. But that's just the way like I'm looking at my family line. I come from a line of naturally smart people who
Mm.
are naturally good at
Mm.
things, naturally smart at stuff. And so,
Oh, I don't know if I buy that in concept. I Not to say that your family isn't smart. I wholeheartedly believe that, but like naturally, I don't know. I think good genes exist, but also like it's people. The reason they're smart is because they were raised in a smart environment.
yeah.
Like they were raised with a good upbringing. Like even if you have like relatively bad genes, you can still be lifted out of that if you were raised the right way. Like,
Well, yeah. Well, I think the thing is like, I think that that is not to say I think people are like naturally doomed to be dumb forever, but I think that some people um are just naturally more adept. That's where prodigies come from. Like we're just out of the blue, they're just like fucking great at violin or something like that.
mm,
That's just where these things come from. It's just the neurons, the synapses in their brain work a certain way. They're like function in a certain way that sometimes it's genetic that can like aid them in those aspects. Um, like they say that Einstein had like deeper, like had more wrinkles in his brain, and
mm,
there's like a hypothesis that that's why he's as like he's a fucking genius with like a 140 IQ is because or whatever his IQ was is because well partially obviously because of his like he just had a good schooling and that's why that IQ is as high as it is, but what aided him in that endeavor was the sort of construction of his brain and like the genes that they had, you know what I mean?
mm. Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. But I mean that's a rare case though. That's not, random Joe off the street isn't going to marry the perfect Asian woman who understands all of the math skills, like, and then make the greatest uh man in the world. Like it doesn't happen every day like that. And like I don't know, like I think it's better to just adopt and then raise them to be, to raise them to your best abilities. And like this is one thing that I want to do with my kids, and I don't know how I'm going to feel about this when I get older, but right now what I think about a lot is like what George Carlin talks about in his stand up, where it's like question authority. And
Mm.
I literally want to teach like my kids to be critical of stuff and to question my authority, because I think that would make like really interesting minds of like people who, like, I would want to try and teach them like fairness of like, okay, you look at views who are on this side and you look at views on this side and you try to come to the middle of things and like try and like teach them to think for themselves and to not agree with everything I say. And like, I think that's a hard thing for a lot of parents to do because they believe what they're saying. Like, they're like, yeah, I'm right, and I want them to have the best life that they possibly can. Which, when it comes to practical matters, if you're in your 30s, you're probably right about how to live in a practical way because you've had experience.
Hmm.
And so, when it comes to someone in their 30s, you usually have to listen to them because they're probably right about those things because their brain is developed and they've lived long enough. But I also think it's important to think about what you're doing as you're
Mm.
doing it.
Yeah.
And so I would want to teach my kids like about being critical and about trying to also have fairness in arguments and stuff and about how to like understand evidence and things like that and how to analyze the world and stuff and to disagree with me and I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that would be a way
Yeah.
to produce interesting minds.
Yeah, I think something I was thinking about is that like if I were to adopt a kid or if I were like asked to have a kid, whether by accident or by like a choice I make in my future, with my future myself in my 20s and 30s, um, my kid would probably I would have an interesting time because I feel like what I would want to do is sort of not like experiment in a sort of like hamster kind of way, but just see like trying different things and
Mm,
seeing how that affects the mind of a child. Like, what would happen if you took like a kid and you fucked with the gender norms? Meaning, like, for example, like maybe they dress like somebody of their sex is supposed to dress, like a boy, you dress them in boy, clothes, right? But you only buy them girl toys.
mm,
what
right.
would how would that person what would they become? Or like maybe you give them a mixture, maybe go for like purple aisle and you just get them whatever you feel like maybe one birthday you'd get them like Barbies and then another birthday you give them like Thomas the Tank Engine or
Mm.
like something more guy centric, I guess, which is like monster trucks, you know what I mean?
Mm.
How
I
would
I
that
I wouldn't
Yeah.
want to force whatever I get them upon them. I would just get them what they say they wanted. But I would also only get it for them if they like worked hard at that time.
Mm.
So like it would be like a reward for working hard or something. But
Mm.
like I I would just want to get them what they wanted because or like have a discussion with them about what they wanted maybe if I thought maybe oh if they had this thing it would be better. Like I would talk to them about it and if we ended up disagreeing with each other I would just go with what they wanted. But I think it's interesting to like I think that's an interesting scenario, but I don't know. It wouldn't be like a big deal to the kid, but I don't know. I
it, it
just
probably
couldn't really imagine myself doing that.
It probably wouldn't, but I think it'd just be interesting just because, like, advertisements and stuff shit is shoved down kids' throats all the time, right?
Mm.
And I hate those there was this one experiment that like really got me thinking about this. Was like, they did an experiment with like bonobo monkeys or something like that, and it was like they gave like young monkeys sets of toys. Some of them were more mechanically based, so like cars, stuff like that, and they gave other ones more humanistic, so like dolls and stuff. And the boys took the mechanical toys, and the girls took the humanistic toys. And they're like, "Ha, checkmate feminism! Fucking animals naturally gravitate towards certain roles. Therefore, evolutionary psychology is correct 100%. And fuck, you know, like pro naturalism and all that shit."
In
Uh,
spite of the fact that culture tells you to take the humanistic toys if you're a girl.
Yeah, well, like that's the argument on the other side of sort of like, well, like the shit's shoved down kids' throats about like you look like this, people who look like you, they do this thing and they buy this toy, blah 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 blah, they get this thing. So if it's like if you go full purple aisle, then how does that shape a kid's view on like gender or like something like that? So nothing might happen, but at the same time, it could be at least slightly. It could impact them slightly, maybe their impression on like maybe it erodes their machismo or something like that, something along those lines. It just would be an interesting thing to do that I'm interested in and maybe pursuing in the future
Mm,
because I think like my relation to the way masculinity functions is I don't want my kid to be me. Like that's the thing. I don't want them to be me. I don't want them to grow up with this weird um sort of like weird disparity between like how masculinity is viewed by them and how it functions and like their weird tango with. I don't want them dealing with that.
Yeah.
Fuck that. So I'm just gonna make them be whatever they want. Gender's dumb. Do we like play these things if you want to? Like these things, like things who you think might not have value have value. You know, just because like they're different. Like it's pink doesn't mean it's bad. Like you know, shit like that. It's very egalitarian, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I don't know what my like parenting philosophy would fall under. I think I just look at situations and I try to figure out, okay, what would be the most like fair to the child, where like I feel like a lot of the time, just letting them make their own decisions, but also coming in and deciding like, okay, practical matters, you got to make sure you do what's right for them, but like just letting them make their own decisions and like try to have them figure out what they want to do on certain things, is a good freedom for them to have,
Yeah.
where you don't like control their entire life. But
Oh
I
yeah.
also think like what Dee was saying in the chat of like keeping kids away from the internet. I think that's a very good thing to do, because like if they get locked into like 8chan or something, I don't want my
Oh
fucking
my
kids
god.
going on there. Like,
No.
yeah, like I mean, this is
No.
I'll tell you a story. I knew this guy, Weeb Trash Productions, right?
Mhm.
And he was literally on 4chan when he was 8 years old.
Oh my god.
And by
No.
the time he was 13, he was on this website called MasterChan, literally jacking off to child pornography. Um, and yeah, that happened. And like this happens to kids all the time. They find gore and shit. Like there are kids who are on 8chan and shit who are like finding gore, and when they watch it, they're slowly getting more and more desensitized to it.
Mhm.
And as that happens, they lose their empathy for others. And it's not like they become killers or anything, but they become less inclined to help others. That's not good. Like
Yeah.
and I've seen this. Like I said, I've had friends who went down that road. Like
Yeah.
literally my friends, and like who grew up with these things, and it's fucked. It's
It,
really fucked up.
yeah. I definitely would try to have I would definitely also like the internet. It can like mess with your eyes. Like there's a lot of shitty things that happen when you like are on the internet too much. I think like my general thing is I think kids should like watch certain things at certain times. I'll try to work it in casually. Like I would want my kid to watch Evangelion, for example, at like 14, because that's I think it's a great age to watch something like that when you're starting to like really think about who the fuck am I and like what do I
Yeah.
like? What are the things
Yeah.
I'm into? Like what is self? When we start to think like that, I think that's a great time to like introduce something like that.
Mm.
Or like I might have internet restrictions, but the thing is it would be highly dependent on like how I felt, because I had internet restrictions. Well, they tried, but it didn't work on me. I didn't give a fuck. I was just into the internet. Um, you know, it's sort of like it just depends on like how things sort of evolve. Like I was a hugely addicted to television when I was younger, and I mean I would read sometimes, and in middle school I read a shit ton, but uh, like there was always a point in my life where I was like addicted to a certain medium, and no matter how much restriction you would put on me, it didn't matter because I just wouldn't care. So it's like people have to sort of take into account things like that,
I
and like
mean, with my parents, they literally just showed me like grindhouse horror movies when I was like 5 years old. So I mean, with stuff like that, it's like we had a discussion about it, right? Like
Mhm.
my parents would talk to me and they would be like, "Okay, this is fictional. This isn't real." And I would be like, "Okay, yeah, it's not real, so whatever." and
Mhm.
and so I mean, I haven't killed anyone, so
Yeah.
like it's one of those things where like um I think there are certain things, there are certain things that like you should show them at a certain age to like to where they get it, but I also don't think having restrictions on media is very important. Like, if a kid watches a movie that has like a nude scene in it, and it's like, well, why does that matter? It's just somebody naked. Like you can see that every day. It's just a person. It's just a person's body. Like why should it matter that like a kid sees like a sex scene or something? Like
Yeah,
it's
I mean, like,
harmless.
I think the only time that it can be bad is if it like affects, your life. It's like any addiction. Like if the kid's like, what is fucking jacking into porn at like fucking 11, it's sort of like, as long as they understand that it's not real, then go ahead,
Well,
go away, kid.
I've already established that I wouldn't let them on the internet anyway, because
Yeah.
this is my goal, right? Is that I want to raise kids on a farm.
Mhm.
And I want so what I want to do is I want to have like a farm just in like rural Asia, right?
Mhm.
Just just in this rural area in Asia, and
Mhm.
like I want to just have my wife and then just adopt some kids and just raise them there, and let them know that like the world is cool. Animals are cool. Because one of the reasons why I love animals so much, and why like when I see animal cruelty, I get literally angry, and like it used to happen like just a year ago. Like sometimes when I would see like someone being cruel to an animal, like I would break down crying because I had a really good relationship with animals as a kid. I loved them. They were like my friends. And so um what would what would happen when I would see this is like I would get really upset. And I mean, I was a little bit cruel to animals sometimes as a kid, like, but that was mostly just because I was very angry, and like I had, antisocial traits that I was repeating from what I was seeing other people, but they were my friends at their core. And so like, when I would see animal cruelty, I would get really sad because I felt empathy for them. I had a connection to them. And I think it's important to like have kids be connected to animals and nature. um and yeah, like it's nice to have the world around you be like a playground, have it be, something that you can interact with in a positive way. That's why I'm very pro like kids going outside and getting dirty and like getting sick and stuff, and like, breaking nails, getting cuts and stuff, because you need to experience that. If you spend your entire life in the house, what are you going to do? Become like me? I don't want my kids to become like me. Like that's a terrible idea. Like another person being like me. I,
Yeah.
I don't want that to happen. And
Yeah.
so like I want my kids to be able to experience the world, to go outside and be happy that they're outside. And live in a world where they can, like, if they want information, they can read books and shit, and when they get to the right age, they can be introduced to the internet.
Mhm.
But I want them at first to have fun with the world that's around them, to be able to make something out of that.
Yeah. I definitely, though I will say, if your kid gets on a bike, wear a fucking helmet. Oh my god, like
Yep, that's true.
seriously,
That's
Se-
true.
like,
But
like have fun, get messy, get dirty, get cuts, get sick. Don't kill yourself. Don't be a retard.
but
Pro tip.
here, okay, alternative scenario. They get on a bike without a helmet, and I don't tell them, and they fall down, but they learn by falling down that they should have had a helmet. Is this very traditional? I don't know.
That's a very, I think, a traditional way would be fuck helmets, but fuck helmets. That's pushy shit, right? But in general, I think, well, that's like a whole, like a self-discovery kind of thing, and you could, I guess, try that. But that, I think, in a way, is letting somebody act like a retard, and I think
Yeah,
I don't want that.
the recommendation should be there.
Okay, that's the thing. Well, that's different. That's not that's different than like just laying them, just have like access to a bicycle. Like it's different.
Yeah.
So that's what I'd say is a distinct difference. Is like you have the information, then through experience they can like learn the thing they need to learn. Like my mom would not let me have a helmet, so I just wouldn't have a helmet when I was younger. So I just would be on a bike without a helmet. And like helmets look dorky as fuck. Like they're terribly designed. They look stupid, but they're good for your head.
Yeah,
They protect your head
it's
from
true.
like bashing it open and shit if you crash. That like I think it's sort of like like learning to like not wear a seatbelt. Like, why can we like accept seatbelts but not helmets? You know what I
I
mean?
never wear a seatbelt.
What the fuck? Why?
I just never do.
I wear a seatbelt in the back seat, and that's not even illegal.
Um,
Like,
no, I mean I don't drive, so like if I drove, I would wear a seatbelt because that's illegal. Well, if I'm in a rural area, it doesn't really matter. But like when I'm in the back or like in the passenger seat, I don't wear a seatbelt.
you should, because that is also illegal, at least if you're a minor.
Um,
So if you
well,
do,
I mean not in my state or in one of my states. I forget which one it was that it said that. The funny thing is that I don't wear the seatbelt, but I also look up seatbelt laws. But there was a state that I was in where it was fine.
Mhm.
In Tennessee, if you're in the back of the car, it like doesn't even matter. Um,
in
but
Illinois, it's pretty like strict about shit like that. Like if you're a minor and you don't have a seatbelt on, like it's just you don't fucking die, but you do get, like, not you, but like the
parents,
responsible party
yeah,
gets another ticket on top of whatever the fuck they got caught for, right? It's just another fine basically that discourages people from like not putting seatbelts on. And I'm like, I'm weird. I'm a huge pro seatbelt um boy. I
mm,
just like seatbelts, as like seatbelts that are properly designed are good. And you
okay.
should wear
So
them.
let me try to explain my mindset here. I am constantly in the mindset that I could die at any time, and I have fully accepted that. Like I'm like if I get hit by a bus tomorrow, I just will not care. And I'm like, well, I did a number of things that I wanted to do in this world that meant nothing in the first place, but I did do them and I'm proud of that. And I lived, I guess I can say that. And so like I was in there's an example of this about a week and a half ago. I was in the car and this guy almost rammed into us. Like it
Yeah.
was in the middle of the rain, it had swerved in a weird way. The car almost got hit.
Yeah.
And everyone in the car was panicking, right?
Mm,
And these were people who I did not normally drive with, but like
yeah.
everyone in the car panicked, but I was just like I just sat there and I did not even move. Like it was like I was sitting there the exact same way I'd been sitting through the rest of the car ride. It was
Mm,
like I had no reaction. And it's kind of weird because you think people would normally have like a knee jerk reaction in that.
yeah.
Like your brain should tell you to do something in that situation.
Yeah.
But I just didn't. Um and it was like it was weird for me to think about it, but I think the reason why is because I've fully accepted the idea of me being in any pain or me dying. Like
Mm,
I'm just fully okay with that because I view it as a natural part of life that's just going to happen and so I have to accept it. And I
mm.
think like because I've hammered that into my brain so much that if I die, you're just dead. You cease to exist, and so it
Your
doesn't really.
natural impulses sort of turn off, is what you're
Yeah,
saying.
which
I
I still have them. It's still like the natural impulses are still there. Like I still say ow and stuff. You
Yeah.
can't eradicate that unless you try really hard. But like when it comes to like a lot of like situations where I could get severely hurt or like close to death or something, I just don't care. And like that situation in particular, like the way everyone else freaked out and like how I was just completely stoic, it was like, whoa,
Mhm.
I'm kind of a weird guy here.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like I think maybe the reason why I'll do kind of dangerous things like that, which I mean, not wearing a seatbelt isn't that dangerous, but like, certain things like that, the reason why I do them, whereas other people, they're like, whoa, you can't do that. It's just because it's like, I just don't care.
Yeah.
Like, if something happens, it happens. It was going to happen anyway, one way or another. I could have walked outside and got hit by a car. You know, I could have fell down in my shower and fractured my head. Like everything in your house can kill you in one way or another.
Yeah.
Everything outside can kill you, but you can't let that hold you down. You can't let that bother you because if you let that anxiety eat away at you, you're not going to be able to live your life.
Well, that
And so
yeah. Yeah.
mm,
I would say to that, as somebody who sort of I don't know. Like I've always when I was sometimes I just have like I think there's a part of me that's like I have shit to live for. Like I have shit
Mm,
to do that I do not want to die yet. I don't want to
mm.
die yet. Not yet. I don't this is not the proper time. Like I think about like if people were to like read back on my legacy, what would I see? Like I think the reason why I have never attempted suicide to a great degree, like I know about like your struggles because I've watched your shit, but like just sort of like I guess an insight on my character. The reason why I have never like committed suicide, like I tried to attempted to any great degree, is because I think like there's the part like for one the part of my body that still like forces me to live is still very much alive, and two is that like I feel like I have shit to like do before I die. Like I want to lose my virginity before I die. I want to write my magnum opus before I die. You know what I mean? Like I just
Yeah.
like I say that kind of facetiously, but like I have shit to do. I don't want to go yet. Like you know I want a little bit more time. So like part of me just sort of functions sort of in that sense. So to me,
Mm,
like to like I could see like you being like sort of very stoic about like getting into a car accident or whatever. Like I've been in a car accident before,
mm.
in a scenario of my own doing, kind of like it was an accident, and like that's why I say car accident, and it was because of very extraneous circumstances that it happened. By my own hands, and nobody was in the car, thank fucking God. But I very well could have died. Um, and the thing is, like, I don't know. Like, I think just during that time, like, I think in my head, like, I would have died, but then all this shit I wanted to happen didn't happen yet. Like, I wasn't in a situation which I had a number of friends who I cared about and trusted. Like, I wasn't in that position at the time, so I'm like, damn, you know what I mean? Like I just want to die with sort of getting certain things sort of checked off the list and being like, cool, I did that,
Mm.
and then therefore I'm good. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Unless I
The
get
the
cancer, then like fuck it, I don't care. But you
the
know what I
thing
mean?
with the thing with me is that I realize that all of those desires that I have are inherently meaningless because everyone's going to die. So the concept of legacy is out of the window already. Like if I die, first of all, when I'm dead, I'm not going to give a fuck about what my legacy is. But
Mm,
also, when everybody else dies, they're not going to give a fuck either. So like I'm like, okay, the reason I do these things in this world now is because they're fun to me in the moment, and the
yeah,
reason why I build up skills is because I like doing things that those skills build to do in the moment as well. And so like when it comes to other ideals of like, you know, I want to write this book that changes the cultural paradigm that brings
mm,
about the revolution and whatnot. It's
yeah,
very philanthropic goal. The
yeah,
reason I do that is because it gives me a sense of pride in the moment. It makes me happy to see that the world is getting better. It makes me happy to know that I've made someone's day better in any small way. I know that person's going to die. I know I'm going to die. I know it means nothing that I did that, but I did it because it made me feel good to do it. And like when it comes to the overall concept of like legacy and like, you know, I want to do these things before I die, like it means nothing to me. Like it, like the concept literally does not register anymore. It used to, but like it's gotten to the point now where like it's if all of this ends and when I don't exist, I'm not going to care. When everybody else doesn't exist, they're not going to care. Then why does it matter what I've done now? Like because the only reason I care about it now is because what was I gonna say? Is because I'm alive right now.
mm,
And so if I'm not alive, then it will just it just won't matter. I'll just cease to exist. And I don't know, like these types of concepts where like when I die, I want to be at peace. And I feel like attaching ourselves so heavily to these types of desires will end up making it to where we actually feel less at peace when we die because there's usually more things that we want. And so I think having those attachments, no, it's like what Buddha said, like desire is the root of all suffering. And so I try to get rid of those desires,
mm.
um if that makes any sense.
That makes sense. I think. Well, I think a part of it is just informed from my from my adoration towards Camusian sort of existentialist philosophy, in the sense of like Camus' whole thing is like the absurd is to try to derive any meaning in our life. Period. There's no meaning at all. It makes no fucking sense. Why do like we shouldn't do it? But like that's inherent to everybody. And to like our job is as like humans, one of the things we have to do is sort of cope with that. As like our existence is an accident. We are not supposed to exist. How do we cope with that? There's no derived meaning from us. Not even on like a basic level, like Sartre says, but even like more so as like on a cosmic level. Existence itself is an accident. So how do you cope with it? And he gives like 7 different ways people cope with it that are bad. But he gives the last way, which is a good way to cope with it, which is to sort of like, resist, in a sense, resist the inevitability of death. And that's all we can do as a species. And that's, in a way, enjoy life in that sense, which is what I mean by like doing certain things and I'll be at peace, quote unquote, is I want to like enjoy myself in that way. That's where the myth of Sisyphus comes from. And like the last line of the book of the essay, The Myth of Sisyphus, is this: in the end, we have to imagine Sisyphus happy. And I think like I would want to I exist in that sense of like of enjoying life. And so just out of life I want certain things. As just a human being, as like just a biological organism, I'm going to want certain things, right? And so in that sense, me doing those things allows me to enjoy life and say fuck death. I'm not dying. I'm not going to kill myself right now because like that's just giving in. That's just giving up. That's
I completely
stupid.
agree. I'm 100% against suicide.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Don't do it, kiddos.
But yeah, like I mean, I think we're basically saying the same thing. It's just that we're saying it in slightly different ways.
Well, we're saying it with influences from different people. I'm saying it from Camus. You're saying it from the fucking Buddha. Like it's basically the same thing, though.
Yeah. And like,
we've come to different conclusions. Yeah, we come to different conclusions and like sort of go about life in different ways, but it's still relatively the same general school of thought. But go ahead.
Yeah, and I mean, I think if I died tomorrow, I would die relatively happy, even though I didn't get certain things that I wanted to done. I've let go of my attachment to those things. Sure, I want to do them and I enjoy doing them, but like the idea of living for them, I've let go of that attachment, and so when I die, I think I'll be happy. I think I'll be happy enough.
See, then I'd be like, but sex with the young, and then I'd be like, and then I'd be dead, so I wouldn't care. But but I would be like, damn, I never got laid or whatever, or something like goofy as fuck like that. Just in, like sort of my basic desire to like just do that thing. But I think ultimately speaking, I'd be like, well, that's it. I guess it's done. Like I'm not gonna be like, no, or like, oh Jesus, or like something like that. It's just I'd be done with that kind of thing. But this conversation's been great. But it's like 4 in the morning where I'm at. Yeah, exactly. So I need to get to bed. I need to like do some other things. And yeah, but it has been a good conversation. How long has this been going for?
I have no idea. Probably a while. But yeah, thanks for coming onto the stream. This was really fun. This stream would have been really fucking boring and way shorter if you didn't show up. I always need someone to work off of if I'm doing it just live like this. But yeah, thanks for coming on. Thanks to all of the chat for coming and listening to our strange philosophical rantings. This always seems to happen whenever me and Razor talk. It's always exactly like this.
No, like watch My Little Pony literally made us communists. It's the same fucking conversation as this. It's just a continuation of it where we have it's a weird back and forth meandering between philosophical debate and YouTube videos. Mostly.
Yeah, like, and I mean, whenever we talk, like unrecorded, it's also just an extension of that podcast.
Yeah, no, I think that's the cool part about our friendship is that we got into calls really early on. And so we just continued that throughout like every conversation. It's cool. All right, I gotta go.
See you later.
All right, see you, dude.